Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Tetracast. We are on a new episode, episode 318 on September 30th, 2023, recording. Um, I am your host for this week. Josh Torres, your usual host. Brian Vitali is out. Uh, but we do have a lighter crew than usual today, but that's fine. James Galizio, another normal member here, is out as well because he's been traveling. He traveled to Tokyo Game Show. It was his first Tokyo Game Show in person, and then he was recently traveling back from Tokyo Game Show to the U.S. because he's had a mini vacation after it and enjoyed Japan. So that's all good. So now I have Adam Vitali.
Hello?
I forgot your name for like a split second. I was like, oh my
You
God,
just
what's
said
his
my
name?
last name like 2 seconds ago.
And then I also have Chow Minwoo.
How's it going?
We don't have a lot of big news hitters this week. We're still coming off from Tokyo Game Show. A lot happened there, and we discussed the bulk of it last weekend. But we do have quite a bit of games came out this week, and especially ones in the RPG space for sure. This week we'll be mainly talking about two recent action RPGs that came out this week. It'll be Fate Samurai Remnant and Infinity Strash Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai. We're just gonna get right into it. I guess the main game this week that kind of been popping up on everyone's I've seen people get this game that are normally not into Fate, but Fate Samurai Remnant. It came out. It got pretty positive reviews across the board for outlets. Josh Tolentino for us gave it an 8, and then him and I have been working on some guides on it. I know that Cullen and Kite from our site have also received codes that have been enjoying it as well. Cullen's not usually a person who's into Fate, and he's been enjoying it. And then Kite, he likes Koei Tecmo games, also knows a bit of Fate, and he's been.
He said it was his game of the year.
Yeah. And then in the staff chat, Kite is like, it's already my personal game of the year. I'm like, holy crap!
And I will admit, I don't really know anything about Fate. I watched 3 episodes of Fate Zero, and I was kind of like, I didn't hate it. I was just kind of like, whatever.
But you dropped it before it got good. But you followed the free episode rule. If it doesn't hook you in free episodes, you drop the show.
Yeah, but I from covering games and through osmosis, I broadly know the Master Servant Holy Grail War thing. But I actually did end up buying Fate Samurai Remnant partially because of the good reviews. Pretty high up there, pretty solid reviews, and also I understand this game will probably have some fan service for longtime franchise fans, but it also seems well situated for newcomers like me. So hey, I know this is apparently kind of a separate timeline, separate spin-off, with the same rules, same kind of structure. So yeah, let me give it a shot. This seems like as good a place as any to jump in. I have not actually started yet.
Yeah, so I don't know if I don't know how many hours our reviewer put into it, but I put some time into it. I pretty much this is a game that has multiple endings. I got all of its endings and then put 100% into it. I spent well over 40 hours of this game just kind of going through it and completing what there is, and I really enjoyed it. Not even just as a fan of Fate, but also just as a general I like action RPGs.
Is it bad when I hear you say 40 hours and I'm like, oh, that's not too long?
It's maybe it's like for people who play a lot of
the
RPGs.
RPG space. Yeah.
At least it's not 100 hours. So yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
I think that sounds great to me. I've been used to playing over 100-hour RPGs.
So before I go on, Chow, you've been playing this as well, I hear, right?
Yeah, I did, but
Yeah.
I'll be the complete scum. I'm just having it on my PS5 because my friend bought it.
Oh wait, so you bought it because
you never heard of the PlayStation sharing system where someone
buys it?
Okay. You can play whatever games they own.
Bought it. Okay. Well, I mean, Steam has that too, like family sharing.
Yeah, but the thing is that if you use that feature in Steam, if someone plays the game while the other guy's online, it'll kick the guy out.
Right.
But there's no limitations on PlayStation. So
I've heard about PlayStation sharing in a while because I people used to do it a lot, several years back, when it was PS3, PS4, I didn't really hear much about it until
You
it
can
took
only
me a
share
while.
with one extra person, but there's no limitations, right? That's it.
Okay, that's what that was the
I actually
limitation
wasn't aware of
because
this.
yeah, there used to be a limitation that didn't have that up to one person. It used to be like quite a few people,
It
if I
used to be
remember
up to
correctly.
5,
Yeah,
but now it's just down to 1. So you just kind of use it on your backup console, but most people don't use it on the backup console. They usually share with their most trusted friend. Usually, that's how it goes nowadays, right?
okay. So yeah, so where are you at, Chow? What do you think of it so far?
I'm still trying to get this. Is this a good Muso or is this a bad Muso?
Okay,
I'm
so
trying
here,
to.
Well,
so here we
it
go.
seems like it's one of those Omega Force games that is sort of Muso, but actually incorporates some not only like more traditional RPG components, but also components from the franchise.
Well,
Like,
once again, everyone has a different definition of Muso, and for Chow here, I think your definition of Muso, Chow, is as if the game has light attack strings into heavy attack finishers.
And
It's
a
a
lot of
Muso.
mobs. That's a Muso
Oh,
game, right?
oh yeah, it has a lot of people on the battlefield, and then
But the
for
thing is, if it has a lot of other systems, like okay, so for my opinion is that I treat Persona 5 Strikers is a good Muso game, but I treat like certain things like what is it, Gundam the Warriors or whatever that one's called. That was God, that was garbage. I was bored out of my mind. I couldn't even get past like 5 levels
well,
oh,
my
so
because
point was, it seems like more recent games from Omega Force. It seems like maybe 5-10 years ago they would do spin-offs like the Dragon Quest games. That was them, right?
yes,
Where it was pretty clearly just like the same Dynasty Warriors, but in a Dragon Quest skin in that case.
yeah, like
But
Dragon
it's
Quest Heroes, I
right,
believe.
right. But it seems like more recently, I played Strikers. I have not played Three Hopes Fire Emblem, and now this. It seems like these games are a little bit less just Dynasty Warriors in a different skin, but actually like taking components from whatever franchise they're taking, whether it's Fire Emblem or Persona or in this case Fate, and incorporating those like some series components or rules or structure into the game and making it a little bit more unique, more than just like a clone or a skin.
Yeah,
That's kind
because
of the way I kind of see it.
yeah, because people how usually like you know most people when they actually I don't know most people, but when people hear Muso, like some people treat it like Chow. It's like if it controls like a Muso and has a lot of enemies on screen, it's a Muso. But for but usually even let's say the Japanese like that like definition how what they classify as a warrior's title from like Omega Force, right? Like that would be something that has those controls, but it's also more of the context of what you're doing it in, like wide open battlefields and like the main objective is after fighting through like thousands of enemies on the battlefield is to capturing outposts and completing objectives on this wide open map to eventually like like defeat the enemy general or commander or so forth. That's like the kind of classic Muso genre as defined by Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors, and all that stuff. It's not just how the game controls. So in that sense, this is a departure from it, like Persona 5 Strikers, where it actually it's not that's not the way you progress through the game. This is very much narrative driven, character driven. You're going through towns, visiting new locations, and there's an actual like deeper story. Um, as you're going through the events of the game, it's very much bound to like story progression. Unlike say like something like old Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors games, where you kind of have this cutscene, but it's basically going from stage to stage to stage. You're basically
Or
going to like
I haven't played all of these games, but I know like the first Hyrule Warriors was practically
Mhm.
that too. It's
Yes,
just
yes.
there wasn't really a story. I mean, sure there were some cutscenes, but it was pretty much just the open world maps defeating thousands of bokoblins or whatever they were,
Yes.
and didn't really. It was like I said, it felt just like a Dynasty Warriors game.
Yeah.
So
So it's always kind I always try to like draw some lines here because people are always like I don't know why the term Musa has such like a weird negative connotation for some people. I just
I,
don't like
I
for
think I think it's just not. I don't know. Like I was talking to a friend of mine who writes a lot of guides,
Mhm.
and he wrote the Trails to Reverie guide and some other stuff, and he said he was. I think he was supposed to do a guide for this game, but he was like bored out of his mind playing it or something. So I'm guessing like Muso's not for everyone. It's maybe because of the enemies pattern. I don't know. I think like I don't know. I feel like when I was playing Gundam Muso back in the day, I feel the thing that turned me off from it was just like how your character abilities don't feel really cool, and then it's just like
Or
it
for
feels
me,
like you're just
if I could, like Dynasty Warriors Gundam 2 and 3, I really like those games a lot. But then again, I'm also a person that plays Dynasty Warriors games and Samurai Warriors games. I consider like
but
Dynasty
wait,
Warriors 3 like one of my favorites, you know. So it's just for different people, right?
but I gotta say though, despite I keep saying that I hate Musou games, I do like Sengoku Basara. I don't know why, but Capcom when they make Sengoku Basara, I was just in love with the game for some reason. So
Mhm.
there's
Okay.
something that clicks in a Musou game for me, and something that does not click when Koei makes it for some reason. I don't
Yeah,
know if you get what I'm saying, but
yeah, I can see, you know, like definitely Sengoku Basara is definitely more over the top. It's more impact. It's very flashy and showy and a lot of spectacle.
I think
And
that might be the reason. It's because it's meant to be over the top because these guys are just bowing down like for thousands of soldiers, and it's like if it doesn't look over the top, it just feels like you're being like mindlessly playing the game. At
and
least that's how I feel.
like for me, like with Fate Samurai Remnant, I don't
Yeah.
really think
Okay.
about
Sorry to
the
interrupt, but like
yeah
for someone who's actually completed the game,
yeah.
so what sets Fate Samurai Remnant like apart from Dynasty Warriors style? Like, what does it add in terms of its progression? How does it use the master servant kind of architecture and so on?
Yeah, yeah. So like, there's a lot of like accompanying systems that like distinguish it. Sure, you have your standard light attack strings into heavy attack finishers. You mainly control this dude named Miyamoto Yori, and as you're going through the game, you learn new sword stances, and each of these sword stances have different move sets, entirely new abilities, and different specializations. Let's say like Earth Stance, for example, that has the unique ability to auto block incoming attacks. Normally, you can't guard; you can only dash or dodge.
And there's the
Well,
water stance, the
well,
dual
yeah.
ability.
Let me explain first. So with Earth Stance, it has like a this fortification circular gauge, and like any incoming attacks that you do, you auto block it. It'll take out this fortification gauge, and then after that's depleted, you'll start taking damage normally again. And this Earth Stance is a single katana. It's very impactful with the way it feels heavy and it feels, very impactful when you attack enemies with it. So, and then one of your other starting stances is your water stance, and this is a dual katana stance, and it's very much for big crowds. It's very agile. It's like kind of free flowing like water, so to speak. So it's definitely your more agile style if you want to get around the battlefield quickly and kind of do crowd control with it. Once again, different move set, different abilities, and both of these stances have their own skill trees as well. So apart from Iori's like main skill tree, you have like branches that go out of that skill tree and that specialize in the different stances, so you can enhance, you know, the abilities that you do in that stance. And then you unlock other stances in the game that have their own specializations. Like one stance later on, for example, it attacks faster and deals more damage the lower HP that you have, and once again, very completely unique. On top of that, you have these magic gems like you do in Fate, where you kind of consume these gems to either give you buffs or cast magic spells, which is very intrinsic to the Fate franchise. Like a lot of characters there, have that sort of specialization for them.
Are they
On top
Sith
of
Lords?
so on top of that, you for Fate Samurai Remnant, since you're playing Iori like he's a master in this Holy Grail War, or the Waxing Moon Ritual rather. um, you have a servant Saber, and you're usually side by side playing together with Saber, and you can use these affinity skills to call upon Saber, and these skills will either have Iori and Saber attack together for an ability, or we'll switch over to Saber briefly to fire off their ability using this affinity skill. And so this will help out, like say there's like a shield gauge on like a tough enemy, like these affinity skills will kind of accelerate how fast you take out that shield gauge because it does so much damage. Aside from that, there's also a separate bar that fills from Saber's portrait icon, and with this bar fills like this affinity gauge, so to speak, you can briefly control Saber. You can swap over to them, and then you can actually have you can have access to everything Saber does. They have their own unique move set, unique skills. You can do their affinity skills as well. when you're playing them. And the main distinction, aside from that, is that these are pretty much your like the two main characters that you reliably play throughout the like most of the game. You can play as other master servants briefly through like these side quest sub story chains that show them, you know, show like parts of like what they've been doing off screen, or show some background on them, and you do control their servant, not the master themselves. Unlike Yori, and there are other these other servants in this vaccine ritual called rogue servants, where you can play them briefly as well as the sub story, and then you can call upon them like Saber when they kind of join your cause after you um, complete their sub story chains usually. And but it's never like a character select screen in like a Muso game where you pick this character and you go to a stage and clear the battlefield of thousands of soldiers. It's very much most of the time you're controlling a Yori, and there's never like a character selection screen. It's very much all dictated by the plot and the narrative, and that's very like that's not usually what happens in a Muso game. Like, even Persona 5 Strikers has you select which Phantom Thief you want to choose for the stage, and that you have a free selection there. But this one, you're pretty locked into who you can control, 100% of the time, pretty much. And I think that's really fascinating because they have a really much Omega Force and Koei Tecmo Type Moon, like pretty much have like a very very clear vision of like we really want players to play as the master most of the time. We really want this to be about Yori's relationship with Saber, and we're gonna really lock down like who the focus is on most of the time. And like for some people who they'll wish like I wish I controlled the servant more, yeah, etc. etc. And like that's very understandable because like when you there's very much early on a very clear power distinction between like Iori and controlling any other servant, because servants feel very powerful in this game. They can mow down enemy soldiers and like tougher enemies like pretty easily, while Iori pretty much like it's pretty much you have to struggle with Iori to kind of work your way. Like if it's like enemy humans, that like usually no problem, but if it's like monsters and tougher elite monsters, like you're gonna have to take your time to really strategize how you want to take them out and choose like the proper stances to kind of HP away and playing safely, because things can kill you pretty quickly in this game when you're against tougher enemies and so forth. So and that's a really interesting like distinction you make through gameplay of trying to emphasize just the power gap between a master and a servant in a Fate game, and it does it pretty clearly, pretty concisely, and also in a way that like even as a newcomer of Fate, like for people who've never been to Fate, like they'll understand that by playing it inherently. You know what I'm saying?
There's one thing that kind of confuses me a little bit. It was during like the tutorial where you're fighting that boss. It says that you can only hurt it when it glows blue after evading its attacks or something. I wasn't really sure what.
So,
was going on that.
so in that one, normally when you're fighting against like elite enemies or enemy servants, usually when you try to attack them with a Yori, your attacks will bounce and get deflected automatically. After an enemy doesn't attack, they will like flash like blue whitish temporarily, and that's when you attack them. That's when your attacks will actually go through and not bounce away until you break their shield gauge. And then after you break their shield gauge, you can go to town on them and you'll deal chunks of damage to them directly with that shield gauge shot. So normally your attacks will bounce off. You have to wait for the proper time to get your attacks for you to connect your attacks. There'll be upgrades throughout the skill tree that'll make that easier, and to get more opportunity windows to deal damage. But that's basically what that tutorial is trying to say.
I see. But like, let's just say if you're using a servant, would you still have to use that same mechanic, or could they just like because they're so powerful, you could skip through it?
You can skip through it. Their attacks don't bounce off. They'll always connect, so it won't bounce. But
I have a kind of a stupid
yeah.
question, maybe.
Sure.
So, is this game fully? Because like when I think of some of these Omega Force spin-offs, they have like story missions and like side missions, kind of like separated,
Mhm.
almost as like separate modes? Is this game anything like that, or is it all just like one continuous RPG
It's
story?
it's one continuous RPG story. There's like no separate modes. It's
Okay.
all it's all within like a single like it's all
Okay.
within a single mode. It's not
So a
separated at
little
all.
bit more traditional RPG than this
Yeah.
stage-based.
So
Okay.
yeah, like how you access like the side stories basically is like you're at this overworld map of Edo, Japan, and there'll be something called like a town list. So like if you don't want to like use a cursor to like hover over to the town list, you can like pull up the town list and then immediately just browse through a menu. Really nice. Wish more games had that option. Um, and also a digressions list where this digressions list will just tell you, hey, these are like the available like sub stories you can go through, and like those will use those like Iori and Saber don't really have digressions at all because you're always playing as them, but the side stories are focused on other participants in this Waxing Moon ritual, whether they be like masters and servants who are participating, or the other rogue servants who are participating as well. There's never like a digression sub story about Iori and Saber because you're always with them in the main thing. So it's actually a nice like way to flush out more of like events that you didn't like see on screen, like may have happened off screen, and then you can kind of fill in the gaps um, there and so forth. So that's cool. I also noticed that James Galizio has joined us on this episode of the Tetracast. Nice seeing you, James. We didn't know if you were tired from Tokyo Game Show or not. Didn't want to disturb you if you were just resting and recovering from your trip.
Yeah, I was definitely pretty zonked, but I wanted to make sure, since I wasn't on the podcast last week, I was able to talk about things this week. So I don't know if I'll be here the full time, if I'll only talk about the stuff I did and then hop out or what, but I'll play it by ear.
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll get to you, after Fate Samurai, and then we'll check in on you because we know that you're recovering and so forth. So take it
I'm
easy
just
there.
imagining James is podcasting from his bed.
Yeah. But I guess like my overall impressions of Fate Samurai is like it's very impressive. It's a really impressive action RPG, and I really just like probably like the best Fate game in like I don't know outside of the like original visual novel.
How does this compare to like the Marvelous ones?
It's way better because like Extella and Extella Link are your standard like kind of like Muso affairs of like it's very repetitive and like hey it's an wide open stage, you're killing thousands upon like enemy troops, and then it's to me it's okay. Like I'm fine in Muso games. I don't mind the repetitive nature. I know what I'm signing up for. I like Dynasty Warriors, and they're mindless fun for me. But there is a inherent like repetitiveness. You're all playing servants there. They're all overpowered as shit, and it's just like a fun mindless time, for me. But in this one, this is a really carefully crafted adventure that really tells like a cohesive, compelling story. Like the really cool thing about this is like they really make the main cast very like they're all pretty interesting, like the masters and the servants and their relationships, and you get to see that. Um, it's really cool what they do with New Game Plus also in this game is after you complete the game once, it took me about 27 28 hours. Um, there'll be like new sub story chains for other masters and servants that open up only in New Game Plus, and it sounds crazy on paper, but it makes sense on like checking in on them on New Game Plus playthrough when you have a full picture of like the events that went on. You'll see like a greater insight on like where they're coming from based on what you saw of them in your first playthrough. And there's also multiple endings as well. There's like story choices that like kind of give you like a new route and a new final chapter, so to speak. And I also like that like they don't label it. They don't label it as bad, normal, good, true ending. It's pretty much you got an ending. It's what you make of it. They don't place any labels on like whether it's like a good ending or a true ending, which is I like. Yeah,
I appreciate that.
yeah.
Otherwise, it just sort of feels like everything is wrong except the true ending, So.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a really cool part of it too. And I don't want to give away. It's a story that it's very easy to spoil. So I won't really give away too much of the story. I'll just say like if you're interested in like a good solid action RPG, and just are looking for a good time, like you should probably give this game a shot. You don't need to know Fate, to get into it, and that's
Yeah, so
that's
like
all I'll really
one
say.
reason why I
Yes.
didn't pick up, like for example, the Extella games, because
Yeah.
that's like, oh, these are just fan service games for people who like the anime or the series or whatnot. But it feels like this one has a little bit more to it than just callbacks and references. It
Yes.
feels like it. So
Yeah, and it's just really good at like balancing like spectacle moments with like kind of just kind of a lot of like downtime relaxing moments. Like it's kind of impressive how many towns you visit in this game all throughout Edo, Japan. It's not like an open world game. You go through like you go on an overworld map and then you go to a downtowns list and then you go to that town, and it's all varied. Like all the locations feel very different. They have their own style, their own flavor, and like it's just fun to like kind of like run around and like for example, like in each town you have incentive like a mini achievement system that like you can do, or not just like activities you can do around town, like buy all like the food that you can eat in a shop, all around town, go pet all the dogs and cats in town, and it's like yeah, it's just like little mini activities that you don't have to do if you don't want to, but if you do, it'll give you a little reward that like um just by just doing like just like goofy shit pretty much. And you'll have like stuff like, hey, if you clean your katana, you'll get like an experience bonus for the next like 8 battles. If you carve these statues, you'll get experience, and then you can also upgrade like your magecraft workshop, so you can like sell the things you sell, they'll be sold more. You can drive down like market prices. You can get affinity easier, etc. And each of like your the servants that like that you recruit, so it's like Saber first, then like other rogue servants that join you, like they have their own like little skill trees too, that you can like kind of go and invest, like what would be good for this servant, like I want to unlock this stat upgrade, this ability for Saber, and so on. So it's a pretty fully featured action RPG. You're leveling up, you're like kind of almost like decorating your katana, but they have like stat upgrades. So like you're kind of upgrading like a little the guard, like the mounting guard, and then putting decorations on it, and they all have each of these like decorations you put in your katana, all have like stats as well that you can upgrade as well with materials and so forth. So it has pretty substantial RPG elements on top of it all, and it's just a fun ride with really interesting twists and story developments throughout it. So it's been great seeing you know uh, people I know who aren't into Fate like get into this and be like, yeah, there's really something to I've never been into Fate, and then this game's like kind of kind of nailing it. And like the nice thing is like you shouldn't feel compelled to like know more about Fate after this game. Like it's a pretty conclusive thing. If this is where you want to stop with Fate, that's totally fine. It's like, what, I had my fun. But I don't want to engage with Fate and anything else, and like that's totally
so you're not going to
understandable.
be the gatekeepy type where you're like, in order to really understand this, you have to watch this and play this and
No,
do this.
absolutely
So-
not. Hell no. No, enjoy it for what it is, and that's cool with it. As long as you had a fun time, that's all that really matters.
I mean, I'm
So
sure
it's-
some people might play this and like want to check out other things,
Yeah.
but
there's a whole bunch of things they have at their plate if they want to. And for people who've been longtime fans of Fate, they will absolutely enjoy this. There's like fun references, callbacks, and like people that you've seen in other Fate works in this game, and obviously to some extent there is fan service for those people who are already into Fate, and that's great. It was a lot of fun seeing those little winks and nods and be like, wow, they really put us a really stupid reference to Fate Zero in this game, and that's what, that's crazy, but I love it. And that's awesome. So yeah, Fate Samurai Remnant out now for what, like PlayStation, Switch, and Steam, as far as I know. The one thing is, I read about this. The Steam Deck performance on this is really weird because if you set this game on performance on Steam Deck, it'll run like ass. But if you set it on graphics mode, it's supposed to run really well if you set it on graphics mode. For whatever reason,
that doesn't make sense.
yeah, I don't. For whatever reason, that's fine. I heard like the Switch on the Switch undocked performance is pretty good, but I heard that it gets a bit framey at Switch undocked performance. So that's what I've heard about those versions. And I assume the PlayStation versions are fine, I suppose.
I heard
I
that
have no idea.
the PC version has a few issues that don't seem to be like super widespread, but enough that Koei Tecmo actually made like a support post for it.
Oh yeah?
Where I guess there's two issues. One, like I guess some people playing on PC are having issues with like cutscenes automatically skipping, and also some saving issues. It doesn't look like this is affecting everyone. In fact, I think we had several people playing the PC version before release with no issues, including you. But I know they actually did post something about the cutscene issue, and I've seen it. So it must be just some certain configuration that is causing it. But otherwise, hopefully they get it ironed out.
Okay. All right. So before we go into Infinity Strash, we will. James, you're tired. You're hungry. Your feet
He's laying
hurt.
in his bed.
Yeah.
In my imagination.
You got back from Tokyo Game Show not too long ago. You had the time of your life. It sounds like. Tell us about Tokyo Game Show.
Well, God, where to begin? First off, it was my first time out of the country, like at all. My first time, like outside the U.S.
Huge.
And my first time in Japan. So when I first landed, and thank God I landed like 2 days before TGS, I was able to get my bearings a bit, but it was definitely overwhelming a bit. Like, and that's keeping in mind that's considering the fact that I can read Japanese just fine. So definitely was
that's big. Like like that. Like they're getting better with like having like English signage, like for like subways there or not like the train stations there. But
yeah, pretty much all the important signage was in English. I will say, pretty much all the important.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, maybe that's not actually true, and I just didn't notice anything because I was already like reading the stuff in Japanese anyways. But yeah. So heading into TGS, knowing that you had already played a bunch of like stuff at PAX, and obviously I'd played stuff at Anime Expo and Summer Game Fest, I wasn't exactly sure. Heading in what I was going to be playing, because for a bit of inside baseball, obviously we put up a preview for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I played it, but I didn't actually play it at TGS. I played it like a few days prior to leaving for my trip.
But that was the TGS build that they showed.
Yeah, that was a TGS build. But what I mean by that is that going in, I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to play, what I was going to focus on, because I just didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So the only stuff that I did know that I was going to play heading in was Dragon's Dogma 2, because we had that appointment set up about like a week and a half ahead of time, maybe 2 weeks. And I figured I would try and see what was at Square Enix's booth and at Sega Atlas's booth and so on. And also last minute, I was able to get an appointment to play some stuff from Level 5, which is huge because, I mean, obviously earlier this year, was it last year, we got all those like game announcements and updates from Level 5 of all companies.
Yeah, I think it was earlier this year. Yeah,
like
it was
February.
like Level 5. Yeah, crazy.
So yeah, I was excited to finally get a chance to play those. Even though Level 5 has English facing PR, they sure as hell didn't make that clear. So I scheduled my appointment in Japanese, and then once I got there, I saw that their booth had an overseas press reception. It's like, okay, so
yeah, it's interesting because they no longer have an official branch here in the United States, I believe, right?
Yeah, it was like Level 5 Abbey, and then like we don't know the exact details of what went down, but there was like a rumor like on like 4chan about some of the stuff that might or might not have happened there in the last couple of years, which again, 4chan, when not just a pinch of salt, but like a mountain of salt. But from what I've personally heard from folks that did know people at Abbey, I believe that what was posted on 4chan was legit an ex-employee. But again, more than a pinch of salt, all that sort of thing. But anyways, I guess to start with Level 5, DecaPolice was one of those games where, like, looking at the footage that they had shown off in the trailers, that I was excited to see what it was, because those trailers, as interesting as they were kind of like all over the place, and it was hard to kind of get a real gauge for what the game was. Funnily enough, actually playing it in person, even those trailers weren't entirely accurate, because in the brief time since this game has been revealed, it has gone from a proper, like, regular turn-based battle system to an ATB system, which is really, really fascinating.
Yeah, you were talking about it with us, like, internally, it seemed to, like, catch you off guard, and I guess all of us off guard, because from the footage it did look like a turn based, but to hear it's ATB, it's like, huh, they're really going for something here.
Yeah. And I do know, like, I'll just say that it's, of the games I played, there are other games I probably enjoyed a bit more, like Dragon's Dogma 2, some of the, like, East 10's demo I had a lot of fun with, but definitely the demo of the show, in the sense that this was something that you could only play at TGS, and the excitement that I had heading in versus, like, coming off of that demo. DecaPolice is definitely the game at TGS for me, and I did notice that some others that were there felt similarly, like, excited after playing it. So I mentioned in my preview, obviously, everything I played, or, well, mostly everything I played. There's previews up on the site right now. I implore you to read the DecaPolice stuff. One, because I'm still very jet lagged, and I'm probably not going to explain everything I want to explain. But two, because, well, just to be frank, please read everything I wrote.
Yep.
Yeah,
Um,
you know.
So yeah, DecaPolice. It's like I said in the preview article. I'm assuming that you paused this and quickly read DecaPolice, so I don't have to go over every little thing. So it's a game that, the way I described it is that sometimes there's games where they try to be so many different things at once that they kind of collapse in on themselves, and they're just like a mess.
Which is sort of funny, because level 5 has done that before.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it in my preview, but there was definitely a context of, this is one of those things that level 5 in particular has fallen into. So DecaPolice is definitely one of those games that tries to be a lot, and at least going off the demo, I think that it's onto something, and I'm really excited for more. So it's one half like ATB RPG. The battle system's very interesting, but we only saw a brief look at it, because what I played at TGS was a slice of the game that I believe was like the second case. And we don't know how many cases there are, but I'm assuming the first one is like a proper tutorial. So this was maybe the first real one, or like the second real one if the tutorial one was case 00 or something. Either way, so you have the battle system, which I'll go over in a bit, but the main thing that you start off doing is, okay, so you're a cop, but really you're more like a detective, because so one of the core conceits of the game is that, you're using this simulation called DecaSim that lets you basically take a look at a perfect copy of the city that the game takes place in, and using it to figure out who was behind these different crimes. So in this one, it's kind of like a training thing where it's like, okay, so we know that there was a heist at this jewelry store at X time. So we're gonna have you go into a slice of the DecaSim, like right before this, so you can try and figure out who was exactly responsible, and to basically, yeah. You get in. First things first, you're at the jewelry store. You have to talk with all the different NPCs there. And I've seen some people already that, keep in mind, the demo build they had was entirely in Japanese. I know there was some Western press there that also managed to play it, but they did not speak Japanese. So that was instantly one of those things where if I wasn't able to understand this, I would not have enjoyed it nearly as much, because it's very much a case where, okay, so you're setting up, okay, here's the different characters here, here's what they're currently doing right before the burglary happens and whatnot. Okay, now the burglary's God, I'm so tired. Burglary, the robbery. I'll just say robbery. That's easier. The robbery happened
now.
God. So right before the robbery happens, then the robbery happens. You deal with combat. Talk about that later, and then you have to investigate the crime scene. You have to you get all of this like info about like what happened. Here's what's changed before and after, all those sorts of things. Then once you've apprehended the suspect, it's like, okay, this seems neat, but something seems a little bit off. And it turns out that it was a 2-man job. So while there was one guy that was basically acting as a decoy, it's like, well, like right when you first get there, everyone's talking about this one specific like piece of jewelry that's really well known at the jewelry store. And it's like in this big, like giant, like display in the back. But the person that robbed it, who had a gun and literally there was nothing stopping him, literally just grabbed almost worthless gems, still gems nonetheless, but like way less valuable, and then just booked it immediately, which made no sense. So turns out that it was essentially a distraction, and one of the other people in the jewelry store made use of that to steal and swap out that one famous piece of jewelry basically undetected. And so you have to like think, okay, so knowing what he did, some of the bits of information about the surroundings, like for example, the police robots are usually there for like security. They, for whatever reason, they weren't working, all sorts of things. And so you have all this details, and then the game's like, okay, here's the case board. Here's some spots that are already pre-populated, but it's like, okay, there's like 3 main questions that you need to answer to figure out, okay, who probably did this. Here's all the information you gathered both before and after, and should be enough to help you logically put things together. And you have to like actually slot the right evidence into the right slots. And then you can check at any time, and the game will let you know if anything is incorrect, or what is like correctly set. And then once you've correctly set everything, then you have to do one last kind of like summary where it's like, okay, so all of this is correct, but knowing this, here's like some like primary questions about the case, and once you answer them all correctly, then you proceed. Then you deal with the main perp. Then there's the battle with him, which is interesting. Has a bunch of different stuff, but it's like it's a really interesting gameplay loop where it's like I said, it's like one half almost like the investigation segment of like an Ace Attorney game, and it's like it's almost like a very, very condensed. I guess kind of similar to like Ace Attorney investigations in the way it plays out. And then you have like the battles themselves, and it's like just really fascinating. So the battles themselves, like I said earlier, they're ATB, but the way it works is that you have a shared like resource for all of your party members that like slowly replenishes. And every action you can take as a party member, as each party member can take, has a certain value that's assigned to it, and it requires that much of your like core resource to use. And then the character will start like preparing to do that skill. And there's different skills depending on different situations. Like for example, from the very beginning, the game makes it clear where it's like, hey, so this might be a common misconception, but you're a cop. That doesn't mean that you're supposed to kill them. It means you're supposed to arrest them.
What?
The goal is not to get their HP to 0. The goal is to create an opening where you can arrest them and then arrest them. So it's almost like, in a sense, that like weakening a Pokemon almost. So, for example, in the earlier one, because of this guy's strong will, he's not going to come quietly. So you need to use specific skills that correspond with the color of the shield to break it down, and then stun him. And then once he's stunned, you can literally run right up to him, hold down the triangle button, and then you've apprehended them. And I imagine that one of the things can happen is that if you're not quick enough, they'll break out of it. But the less HP they have, the longer they'll be stunned. By the way, not only is it an ATB system, but whenever you're controlling a party member, you can actually just walk around with them. So even if they're like charging a skill, you can like control them and then like move out of the way. Like, for example, cool. If like an enemy is like targeting you or something like that. So it's an interesting little wrinkle there. So the final encounter of this slice of the game obviously had the stuff I was talking about earlier, where it's like there's a shield and whatnot, but there's also like multiple enemies that you have to contend with. Halfway through the battle, the boss will basically just take advantage of something to literally take one of your party members hostage. And once that happens, these types of skills you can use is different because they're in a hostage situation. You can't just shoot, because now he has like a gun, like one of your party members is now like apprehended and has like a gun pointed up against their head. So you can't do anything rash. So instead of doing skills that are like directly like attacking, instead it's like more like pestering them and like basically trying to get the suspect off, off focus, so you can take advantage of the situation to rescue your party member before continuing on with the fight. But yeah, overall, I really did not know what to expect from DecaPolice going in. And I do know that there seems to be more outside, but I know there's at least going to be some sort of like exploring the city and whatnot. It was like a very like closed off, like linear section that we got to play. But the game looks great. I played the PS5 build. Visually, it looks fantastic. It ran perfect. I wish it was coming to PC, but it seems like something where it's like you're not going to have any problems playing it on PS5, so whatever. But yeah, DecaPolice, I was hoping it would be interesting, and it's definitely one of those things where it's like I'm super excited to play more after getting my hands on with the demo. And I guess any comments you guys have before I continue talking about some other stuff?
No, I was also pretty interested in DecaPolice. I like the trailers. I like the style. I like the music in the trailers. I don't know if you could heard that on the show floor or whatever, but you know,
I didn't watch much of the trailers, but from the way that James described to me, this sounds quite like maybe a game of the year contention for next year, maybe.
Well, it's supposed to be this year, but who knows?
Yeah.
But,
yeah,
I mean, that's a weird thing.
Okay,
they said
so,
I think they officially say 2023, but I think they just said casually to you, yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, no, like I literally the thing I asked after I finished up my demo was, so just double checking, this is 2023, right? And the person at the booth was like, maybe 2024.
Yeah.
On paper, yes, but
I mean, yeah, Level 5 had a weird presence at TGS because like the beginning of this year when they announced all these games are 2023, it's like, okay, it's at the end of September and you're still saying 2023 on these trailers, and there's still no, they did not provide a single release date for any one of those.
They have 4 games that are supposedly coming out this year. They have DecaPolice, they have Fantasy Life, they have Megaton Musashi and Inazuma 11. And they're all technically 2023.
The only one I actually believe will still come out this year is Megaton Musashi, but that's because it's literally a port of a game that already came out like years ago.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's a weird one. The Level 5 really needs to, I don't know. Well, they really need to check back in on us before the end of 2023 and see what the status is on these projects.
While I'm like feeling good about the current state of DecaPolice, it's wild that like the screenshots that we got earlier this year very clearly showed a game that was a proper turn-based RPG. I sit down to play and it's like, oh, this is ATB.
Yeah, so and like I said, like it's a demo. You don't know how the full game will be. It looks really promising. We hope it is a good game, but it's way too early, especially off of the demo, to say, oh, this might be game of the year. It's like you don't know, man. You don't know what the full release will be like, so we'll see. So yeah, anything else you want to anything that made a strong impression on you at TGS? You played a lot of stuff, so you don't have all the
Oh
time to
gosh,
go
yeah.
through it. So
I literally don't have all the time though. You
yeah.
didn't. I did like briefly skim last week's Tetracast, and you guys didn't talk all too much about what I played or even mention
I
it.
mean, we go through you know that you've been going through previews and whatnot, but we know that you probably wanted to speak about them briefly at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
to us, so we don't
Well,
want to
Um,
speak for you.
yeah.
Look, we already dragged
So
out the show too long last show. It was 3 hours and 7 minutes, I think.
understandable. So I did play Fantasy Life I. Not too much to talk about there because I'm not a Fantasy Life fan. I didn't play the original. But one thing I did notice, like looking it up, is that there wasn't really any lives on offer in the demo that weren't in the original 3DS game. So I had fun, but it's also like, man, we know there's going to be other lives. Very interesting choice to be like, okay, here's all stuff that was in the 3DS game that came out a decade ago.
I think they announced like a new artist one, and I think there was like one other one they announced too. But other than that, it's like I know there's a few new lives they showed off, but I'm not a Fantasy Life person. I don't know if they're like brand new to the series or like coming from like older ones.
Yeah.
But
So that was basically it for level 5. They did also have Inazuma 11 playable, but I am a dumb American. I don't know anything about. You say football, and it's like, oh, right, with
linebackers.
with linebackers and quarterbacks and yeah,
yeah,
now
Inazuma 11 is also pretty involved too. Like even like the action to action, like you actually like plan out moves during like the match as well. So
yeah,
it
I
is like
know I have some European friends that really love that series, but considering that time was in fact a bit of a premium because again, got disappointment literal last minute. And the fact that I don't know anything about the series, it's like for Fantasy Life, I had to cover it because it's like one of those things where it's like people have been wanting a proper follow up to that game.
it's
So
also like to paint a picture for you. So like even though you were in like during the business days, it was anything but like a timely like you didn't have all the time in the world even on business days. It was still
yep,
pretty
yep.
packed from what we heard.
Yeah, nowhere near as bad as the public days, of course, but yeah, business days were also very packed. So level 5, main two things the only things I played were DecaPolice and Fantasy Life I did also stop by Sega's booth. Sega was one of those companies where I think they were technically taking appointments, but also it didn't matter because they had priority lines during the business days for press to play some of their demos. So originally, we only knew that Persona 5 Tactica was going to be playable there. And since that was the one thing at PAX that Josh was unable to play, I was like, okay, I'll play that. That would be my main focus. I would have loved to play Persona 3 Reload, but it was one of those things where I was trying to pick my battles.
Josh played it and so we have a write up of some impressions. So
Yep, exactly. So when I get there, I realize, oh, it's not just Like a Dragon Gaiden that's playable, but also Like a Dragon Infinite, well, for Like a Dragon 8, as it was called over there. So I was like, okay, well, obviously I'm going to have to play this and write up about it. Uh, it's It's like a Dragon game. They had an interesting demo slide, so it was very clearly pre-made for the game show, where it's like one of your party members is literally like you can talk with them. And it's like, hey, do you want to do X, Y, or Z? I'll just teleport you right there so you can save time. Because I'm pretty sure the demo itself was timed for like
15 minutes or 30 minutes, something like that.
yeah, probably like 20, 25, or 30.
Okay.
Definitely a bit more than 15. But yeah, I had time to do some karaoke. I had some time to do the crazy delivery, which is a very, very funny mini game where it's like, okay, so what if Ichiban, since he's in Hawaii, obviously, it's like, and what's one thing that the Japanese dev team knows about America? All of us are lazy and we get food delivery services.
Mm-hmm.
So what if he's like an Uber Eats driver, but he's on a bicycle? And what if it's like a very tongue-in-cheek mini game that's in a lot of ways like Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, and he's like delivering pizza slices, burgers, and like soda or something.
Yeah, all sorts of things. And then there's like specific thing like springs you can find throughout the map that just like have you do like very humorous like jumps across like literally over a skyrise and stuff like that. So that was fun. All the mini games were fun. One of them was interesting in the sense that it was, I think, the first time I've seen a game be like, hey, so we played Pokemon Snap and we thought it was kind of sick. So there's like this mini game where you get on this like trolley service in Hawaii and whatnot. It's like, hey, so there's been a lot of real perverts around lately. You should take pictures of them so the cops can pinpoint their location and arrest them. And so you're basically just sitting along on this trolley, and as you're like going through the city, it's just like in Pokemon Snap, they'll pop up sometimes. Maybe they're just sitting there, and you're getting pictures of them. Very funny.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about like I guess to be as light with it as possible. I don't know how I feel about how the game is tackling like Hawaii in general. I'm going to be curious to see how the full game like pans out in that regards, but it's like one of those things where it's like it's very much still the same as ever. I really, really hope it doesn't get into some insensitive shit, because like as funny as
You
what I
mean
was
like
playing,
how Hawaiian culture might be portrayed?
yeah,
Like
because there was
actual
already
Hawaiians?
already some stuff that made me go But
Mhm.
anyways, battle system is neat. Not too much to say other than the fact that so obviously Kazuma Kiryu is a party member this time, and the game makes it very clear that so since he had like style switching in other games, he has different modes that you can choose, and like in the turn-based battle system, that slightly changes how his play style works, and using each of those forms, you actually get fill up hype meters for each of those forms. And once all of them are maxed out, Kiryu basically gets a limit break where it's like, okay, you activate this. Hey, you remember how Like a Dragon 7 was a turn-based RPG? Kiryu doesn't, because he remembers that he could just go up and punch people in the face. And so you can do that as him for like 15 seconds or so.
Yeah, they showed that off. It's like that's a really brilliant way to kind of handle Kiryu of like just like having like a brawler style for him, like to go call back to like the way he usually plays in Yakuza games.
Yeah, it's very, very funny. The demo section made it so that you always had access to it, just because it's like, well, obviously people want to play around with this and whatnot. But yeah, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is turning out to be really cool. I'm excited to see more. I also played Persona 5 Tactica. It is a Persona 5 tactical RPG. Wow. It's kind of hard to talk about anything specific about that, because tactical RPGs at the best of times are kind of hard to preview, just because you really want to see what sort of like level layouts and enemy patterns there are later in the game to get a good idea for how it's going to feel. The one thing that I did get to figure out how that works is that triangle type of attack. I forget the exact name. I know that there is an English name. I'd have to read my preview because I did look it up. But so basically, you have the once more system, but also if you down an enemy, the character that you're controlling that downed the enemy can do a follow-up attack if you and at least two other party members. I'm not sure if there are max amount of party members you can have in each stage is 3 or more, but if you have at least two other party members positioned in like a triangle formation, you can do a follow-up attack with the character that knocked down that enemy. And that enemy, as well as whatever other enemies are within that triangle, will basically an all-out attack. So that's interesting. I do like the way that each character has a slightly different attributes. For example, if you use like the melee attack as Morgana, the character will kind of be flung in the air and then like back a few spaces, but it's like in an arcing like form. If you do it with Joker, it'll just knock the enemy back like directly, like a long distance until they hit something, or maybe not until they hit something, but maybe that's one of the options. So it's like one of those things where it's like one of them, you can just knock them over other enemy units, but the other one, you can only knock them into it, that sort of thing. There's a system where if you do not if you like move a character without like engaging with an action or a skill or whatever, that'll charge them up and they'll have different attributes. The new character, I forget her exact name. I'm sorry.
It's different in the different languages. It's Erina in English.
In Japanese. Oh yeah, in Japanese it's just like Eri, I think.
Yeah.
But so her like charge ability is from cover. She can still knock down enemies with her ranged attack, her like gun. So that's interesting. And then there's other like abilities that you get. So it's interesting. It's interesting. I'm curious to see how it'll evolve and how I'll feel about the full game and like whatever like abilities are available to other characters and whatnot. But it seems interesting. And I mean, like Persona has so many different spin-offs. Like Persona 5 alone has everything that anyone would want except a fighting game at this point. But I curious to see more. So that's Sega. I could spend an entire hour talking about Dragon's Dogma 2, so I won't.
Yeah, just like you did. So let's okay. So you got the preview. Let's talk about your interview with Itsuno and Hirabayashi. Like, so how is talking with them about it? Because everyone's seen footage of Dragon's Dogma 2. That people watched Capcom, and it's been crazy. Like it's a lot of Dragon's Dogma 2 is pretty much a very much like a refinement and very much like the first game. When they're introducing it, they have more new systems to eventually reveal. But we want to know, like, you got to see Itsuno and Hirabayashi in person and speak with them about it. How was it?
It was really interesting. Briefly talking about, like, I guess Dragon's Dogma 2 itself, the main question I had heading into the interview was about the world design. Because, like, even the original, like, Dragon's Dogma world, I feel like has aged incredibly well in the sense that it feels like it was almost like a bit ahead of its time with the way that the overall world layout was set up, where it was very much like waymark established. And even though like Dark Arisen gave you access to like the eternal like fairy stone, where you can just like instantly fast travel between locations, the game very much felt like it was designed around the idea of, okay, so you need to prepare for the trip ahead of time, because you don't necessarily know how, like, what state you're going to be in returning from this. So you really need to be careful. And it's one of those things that I very much appreciate about it, and the way the world is designed, where it's like, okay, so you're going to want to keep an eye out for waymarks in the environment. And sometimes the pawns will even mention them. That way, like, especially when it gets really, really dark at night, like pitch black at night, you need to know which direction you're going to go. Because, like, generally, because of how big the game world is, you're probably going to still be out and about when night falls. And then you're going to be in a very dangerous situation. So you need to know what direction you're going so you can avoid problems as much as possible. So all of that stays true for Dragon's Dogma 2, with the addition that the world itself is dense as hell. Like all of us up here have played RPGs with forests, and I'm saying forests with quotation marks here, where it's like, okay, this is not how an actual forest looks, or maybe like you only go through a clearing in the forest. No, Dragon's Dogma 2, you're in the forest. Yes, there will be sometimes paths through it, but the density of the trees and like everything around you is very much real. This is probably the first game I've played where there's a forest in it and it feels like a real honest to God forest and not just a video game forest, if that makes sense.
I get what you're saying, because all video game forests have a bunch of clearings or very well marked paths.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things where the game, and I even asked like Itsuno about this, where it's like, man, it must have been really difficult to manage like this new density, which they confirmed that was one of the main things they wanted to do with the world design this time, was like really focus on that density, while also having like waymarks for characters to be able to keep their bearings. For example, like there might be a statue on a like kind of hill in the middle of the forest, so even like no matter where you're really at in this section of a forest, if you look up, you might be able to spot it, and that'll let you know, okay, this is where I generally know it is on the map. That's the direction I want to head, that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, Dragon's Dogma 2 is, well, Itsuno said it himself in my interview. Like I asked him, like, it's kind of surprising like how much of the original game was preserved and what I got to play. And Itsuno just straight up said that one of the things the dev team has been like actively trying to do with Dragon's Dogma 2 is it's more of a like a reimagining and a refinement of the original Dragon's Dogma.
Mhm.
So if you've played Dragon's Dogma 1, you already know what to expect with Dragon's Dogma 2. There are some slight changes. One like mechanical change I noticed is that in Dragon's Dogma 1, the way that gear enhancement worked is that if you had the necessary materials to get the final enhancement, you could just skip all the other enhancements and just immediately max out the weapon. This time around, you have to do it in order.
Oh, okay.
You can't
Wow.
just skip it. You have to do it in order this time, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. But
Yeah.
it's one of those changes that's there.
They definitely trying to lean. It definitely feels like they're trying to lean into more like the simulation elements.
Oh yeah, oh
Dragon's
yeah.
Dogma.
Like one of the things I asked about during my interview was the fact that, like, obviously the original Dragon's Dogma, mostly owing to hardware limitations, outside of scripted segments, you would not see enemies in like main towns or cities. You would not see them because there's like a loading zone between the overall world and the actual encampments and whatnot. No longer the case in Dragon's Dogma 2. It's a proper, real open world. So returning from a quest in one of my playthroughs of the demo, I thought I killed all these goblins. I missed one. I came back to town, talking with an NPC, getting stuff from the quest I cleared. This goblin waltzes into town, and literally every NPC that could fight in that village, like immediately is just on edge and like runs right at us. Like, we're gonna fucking kill you, dog.
Yeah, I'm just like if there's like the limit of that, just like maybe trying to like lure like big monsters into town.
Okay.
How that'll.
So when I mentioned the goblin situation to Itsuno, he all but like confirmed that you could drag a griffin all the way to a town if you wanted to, and they will, and the characters in that town will react.
Yeah, I saw like a few videos, and like one of the things that really like opened my eyes about this sequel is like usually like when you're a huge creature like a griffin, when they start flying to the air to retreat, in the original you would get like you get tossed down automatically. You couldn't go that high up into the air with the griffin. While in this one, like there are some gameplay videos that definitely had you stay on the griffin and had you like you can like stay on their back as they're flying into the nest. So you can see like just how big the world was even from this demo. Like they were even like soaring like over the town, like in real time, and then just you're just staying on its back until it got back to its nest. So you just got to see like everything pretty much in the world as it's flying by. It's like holy shit, that's insane. That's one of the things that really blew me away with the footage that people have been recording of it.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Like again, like they said, this game's envisioned as the original Dragon's Dogma, but more, which normally that would just be somewhat interesting. But considering Dragon's Dogma 1's history, that means a lot.
Yeah.
I'm super curious, and like one of the things that he outright told me is, we want to make sure that we put everything into this one. We don't want to have like any lingering regrets, and you can tell that they're really serious about this one, and I can't wait.
Yeah. So still no date for it. No, hopefully sometime next year, but we'll see. It's a big one.
We do know that Capcom is forecasting a multi-million seller to release before the end of March.
Okay.
And Monster Hunter was not announced. It is probably not going to be that title for Capcom. It's probably going to be the fall title next year, in my opinion. Which, considering the fact that they had a bunch of press, not just myself, but other press, obviously, I know that that there was a separate like TGS Halo event in San Francisco that Capcom invited people to. The reason we didn't get invited to that was because I was at TGS, so they were like, well, no reason. We can just have you play it there and then interview if it's known and all that. But yeah, it's probably going to be early next year. I'm sure it'll be like somewhere around March, February. God, just what we need. Another like long RPG to release in February. God.
Well, we'll see. They didn't say any release dates. So I won't put words in their mouth. We'll see what they say.
Yeah.
Give us like just a tiny bit more.
Rundown. I won't talk too much about East 10 because I'll have. I'm not sure if we're gonna do a score review because we did import reviews in the past, or if it's just going to be another one of those features that's essentially a review, but for SEO reasons, it's not going to be called a review and it's a feature. But if anyone doesn't follow my Twitter, we got a review code for East 10 from Falcom.
Yeah, Japanese, like the Japanese branch of Falcom.
Yeah. Well, the only branch.
I mean, the only branch of Falcom. But I mean, like but like distinction between like Falcom themselves and not NISA with Falcom.
Yeah. Basically, I reached out to them at TGS at their booth. Obviously, I did put up a preview of the trial version that was at the show. The game itself is out now. I won't have my PS5 until later today, so I'll start playing that. I could have started on my Switch, and apparently that's a good version, but it's also a thing where it's like, I played the game on PS5 at TGS. It felt and looked very good, so I'd like to play it on PS5, so I will. So yeah,
you'll have more to say later on that.
I'll have more to say later. It was one of those things where if I hadn't gotten a review code, I was obviously going to play it like pretty soon. But it's a little different when you get a code from a company, because now it's like, okay, as soon as I get my PS5, it's like hit the ground running.
Yeah.
But yeah, very excited. Kind of terrified because technically I got an early code. I wasn't able to play it until like later today, obviously, but got it before it came out. Oh God, oh fuck! I might get Kuro 3 before it launched.
We'll see. We don't even know like what their next game is. All they said the game that they're announcing at their next investor meeting is not East or Kuro or Trails rather, or not Kisagi.
Well, we know that one of the games they're announcing isn't East or Trails, but they did also say that they're working towards releasing multiple games in a single year. So I would not put it past them to also release Kuro 3 next year, but we'll see.
That's ambitious. It's going to be a brand new game, like 2 brand new games for Capcom.
I hope it's not another Xanadu game.
Yeah. Well, Josh, here's the thing I'm thinking, and I'm hoping this is what happens, is that whatever game they release next year that isn't an East or Trails game is not bloated to hell and back, so they can actually like release it and hopefully have a series they can release on a semi-regular basis that doesn't require like 50 hours set aside just to play it.
That'd be great.
I am excited to play East 10. Again, thank you to Neon Falcon for the review code. But yeah, other stuff at TGS. I ran into this one game called Witch and Lilies in the indie game section. And before even really paying too close attention, I was like, is that a Steam Deck? So I was like, okay, I'll try this demo on a Steam Deck. And then it turns out it's a dungeon crawler, a DRPG, as it were. And then later on, after I played it and started writing up previews, some impressions of it, I looked up Stromatosoft, which is the developer's website, and it's like, oh, some of the people on this project are actually pretty stacked. So you have Mago, who did the character designs for Space Patrol Ludluko, for the character portraits and whatnot. The scenario writer is, God, I'm going to butcher his name. 1 second. The Corpse Party writer. The Corpse Party and the Death End Request writer is on the scenario for this game. And between that and what I played, it's like, yeah, this is going to be really cool. It's going to be a day and date English release. They had a really cool setup at TGS in the indie game booth area. It was one of those things where it's like, one of the main reasons I wanted to do TGS wasn't just for the big games, but because of this belief that there's so many developers in Japan that really do want their games to have a global audience. They want to reach out to folks in the West, but sometimes, and this was something I assumed before heading to TGS, and then after actually having attended, I realized that, yeah, I was on the money. There's so many devs that want to like reach out to the West, but they just don't know how properly.
Yeah.
So like Level 5, it's a prime example. They had English speaking PR, but they weren't reaching out to anyone. The only reason I got an appointment is because I literally went to their contact form on their corporate website and sent them a message in Japanese, which then got them to respond to me with an email so I could set up my appointment with them in Japanese. But yeah, so smaller companies, like obviously like the bigger ones like Sega and Capcom, no issues getting appointments. They're already big companies in the West. They have Western branches with dozens, maybe hundreds of employees, that sort of thing. But smaller companies like Stromatosoft, they're an indie company. Like obviously the people that are on their staff have a lot, like between each, like everyone there's like decades of experience making games. So it's not like I had a lot of fun with this. I guess I should say, if you can't tell from the titles, this is a Yuri focused game. So lesbian relationships, which normally would just be something where it's like, oh, is that just a fan service thing? But there's apparently like an actual like gameplay element where it's like, okay, yeah, if these two characters in your party are in a relationship, they'll react to help each other, which is interesting. So yeah, what I played of it very briefly, again, dungeon RPGs, maybe not the easiest thing to preview and whatnot, but what I had a chance to play, it's like, yeah, this looks dope. It's probably going to be pretty good. I'm excited to see more. Yeah, I talked about Level 5. I talked about Sega. I didn't talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but
yeah, we already covered so much. Yeah, if you're interested, learn hands-on, go read James's preview and so on. Like, any final thoughts on like just your not even like TGS, or just like your general stage of Japan, like your general experience, like outside of like work for us, obviously.
It was great. Man, it was the perfect time to head over there with how fucking weak the yen is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about getting a lot of stuff for on the down like very cheap there.
I almost bought
the dollar.
I almost bought a Switch OLED because at like a tax-free shop you could have gotten it for like $230 for a new Switch OLED.
Oh wow.
I'm trying to remember. Like every time you buy something, don't they have to like imprint something into your passport saying that you bought this here or something like that?
No, they just have to. They do it digitally, where it's like they scan your passport, they check because you get a stamp in your passport to say the length of your stay.
Oh, because I remember I was in Japan. They had to like stamp my passport every time I buy something to say, "Oh, this is what Chow bought. He can't cheat his taxes," or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think they stamped mine. It was very funny heading back through customs in the U.S. and the person that asked me, "So, do you have anything to clear?" It's like, I bought a Nintendo 3DS, and just instantly her eyes glazed over, and she just kind of waved me through. Very funny, but yeah. I bought so many fucking games. One that I did buy that I kind of wish I had bought like from a different store was Surge Concerto. So like Seal No Surge and R No Surge.
The bundle pack?
Yeah, they got remasters in Japan like a couple years ago, and they're available on Steam, but because it's geo-blocked, can't buy the PC version. So I've been looking for like the Vita versions of those games for a while, and I did even look for the Vita versions while I was in Japan, and I found like plenty of copies of Seal No Surge, not too many of R No Surge. Eventually, I found a double pack for the Switch. 1 second. Yeah, sorry, just my throat because I've been talking so much. So I found a double pack LE with a bunch of extra contents, a bunch of drama CDs, an art book, all sorts of stuff for like 6,000 yen, which to put in perspective of how bad the currency exchange rate is now, after the discount for tax-free, that was $37. There was another version of that at a different store that also came with like the Bic Camera Group exclusive tapestry for that was like $35 I could have bought. But either way, I'm glad that I bought it when I was in Japan, because it was one of those things that, like, I'd heard that sometimes you'll find stuff in Akihabara that you just really won't find listed outside Japan. Maybe you'll find them on Yahoo auctions and whatnot. But yeah, this was one of those things where you can't really find it anywhere else. So the price was good. And also, if I hadn't bought it, like, when I was there, I wouldn't have been able to find it. And it was just easier to get that double pack. And it's like, okay, these will be better on Switch anyways. So I'm excited to play those finally.
I think I was gonna say, like, my favorite shop when I was in Japan is the Madarake shop, I think it was. I think they have like the best price for used goods. You could buy it like
I think that's one of the locations I went to. I think I bought games from seven different stores. Both trader branches in Akihabara. One from Madarake, one from Surugaya, one from a hard off because they had a random copy of Ao Kiseki Evolution, where I literally could not find that fucking game in any other store. So I bought it there. Then I got something from Softmap, a bunch of stuff from Softmap actually, because there was like a used game section in the Softmap that had some really good selection, especially when it came to LEs. If I had more space, oh my god, guys. So many LEs.
It's Japan in a nutshell.
That's usually like I've seen some people like when they go to Japan, it's like, yeah, I get a spare briefcase whenever I go to Japan because I know I'm gonna need the space. You know,
I had a spare briefcase, but even then, like, I bought like over 20 games, and like a bunch of them were the LEs, and it's like it literally got to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, no, I have to stop buying LEs even if I want to. It's like, as much as it would be great to own a copy of the Sen 4 LE for $6, I can't.
Oh, I have that. I have the LE. I bought it for $20 though.
Yeah,
but that was a different time.
Also, when you're buying it straight from the source, as you will, obviously there's not the markup you get, and then you're also not paying shipping. So it's like, that's what I'm telling myself when I look at my pile of games, where it's like, yeah, I bought a lot, but if I had bought this like in the States, for the stuff I could even buy in the States, because like, as I said, there was some stuff that I was not able to find like online listings for, like the agent code double pack for the Surge Concerto and whatnot. But if I bought all this stuff in the States or had it shipped over here, would have been like close to double the cost, if not more. So
there's also like that one thing. What is it? Like, the condition of the items in Japan are kept very good. If you're like if you're comparing to the stuff over here, you go to a pawn shop that is supposed to be A+ quality for that item, that's like a D rank in Japan. So it's like, they kept the stuff so good though that you don't have to worry about their conditions.
Yep.
And the standards they have is just totally different from what we got here.
Yep.
I'm not even being biased. It's true.
Yeah, I just bought a ton of games. Like, off the top of my head, just Zero Now no Kiseki Evolution, Labyrinth of Refrain's Vita version to go with my copy of Labyrinth of Galeria, which, very funny, by the way, saw a limited edition for Galeria PS4 for like 2,500 yen. Standard edition for Galeria, whenever I found it, was basically going for MSRP. So it's like, hell yeah.
There are games like that where the normal edition costs more than the limited edition.
It wasn't about that. It wasn't about that. It was more just like the Vita version, for whatever reason, is more desirable over there.
But I don't know. Like I was thinking, like Witch of the Holy Knight. If you buy like the limited edition versus the regular edition is actually worth more than the limited editions now.
Yeah, I did notice that. But
for some stupid reason, they have different covers though. Maybe people just prefer the different cover. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. But yeah, a bunch of different games, bunch of Vita games. Like just looking at my shelf, it's like Zero Hour no Kiseki. Obviously, I bought a copy of Atelier Aisha Plus because that didn't get a physical in the West. Just wanted to have one to complete the collection. Miracle Girls Festival. Hero Must Die, the original version of the remake on Vita. Let's see what else. Yeah, a bunch of stuff. I bought a copy of Higurashi. I bought a couple. Yeah, because there was like a Vita version of Higurashi. I was it's like $15, something like that. I was like, okay, I'll buy that. I bought a bunch of Vita limited editions.
Thank you for keeping the Vita alive in 2023.
Vita means life. I found a copy of the incredibly cursed Vita limited edition for Chaos Child. I don't know, Chow, Josh, if either of you are familiar with Chaos Child.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Josh, are you familiar with the Vita limited edition of Chaos Child and what it comes with? Gift boxes.
Oh no. Okay, interesting.
It was from that time.
Yeah, so no, literally it's one of those things where it comes with like a paper craft sheet and it says, hey, here's some paper crafts for you to make of these gift boxes. It'll really stand out to you once you finish the game. And it's like, whoever designed that, you're going to hell, but man, you're really fucking funny. Imagine being someone that was super excited for Chaos Child in Japan because it's like, you're not going to buy a fucking Xbox One. You have standards. And then you have to like watch as that one weird dude at your local game store who actually played it on Xbox One is like giggling his ass off as you're buying the Vita limited edition. You're wondering what the hell is this guy's problem is, and then you find out.
Well, opening your third eye, so to speak. Well, we're happy, that you're able to talk about, your overseas trip in Japan, doing Tokyo Game Show and getting a little mini vacation and all that stuff. We're just happy that you're home safe and sound. You should go get your rest. Like you definitely deserved it. You killed it out there. Like, we couldn't thank you enough for going through everything for that.
Are you gonna do it again next year?
God, if I can. Like, I mean, man, it really is insane. Like getting back from my trip and just like the process of getting back into the U.S. as a U.S. citizen taking like 5 times longer than like entering Japan as like a foreign citizen. It's crazy that somehow I'm getting culture shock from my own goddamn country after being in Japan for 10 days.
It's bad. It's bad.
Nobody heard of my backstory when I went to Japan. I'll tell you, I booked my hotel and I forgot about the times, so I was one day off. So I had to look for a love hotel to stay in.
That's now.
It's expensive.
Well, you do what you have to do. Alrighty then, James. I mean, you have any? You gonna stick around, or are you gonna go get some rest?
I'm probably gonna hop off.
All right. Yeah. All right. You have a good one, man.
Good one, folks.
It was great to have you
later.
Thank you. All right, so it was nice hearing from James and his time at Tokyo Game Show and what he got to check out, a little bit of what he got in Japan. Just before we wrap up what we've been playing here, there's another RPG that came out this week, an action RPG also like Fate Samurai Remnant. Adam and I have been playing Infinity Strash, Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai. This is the console game project that was part of the multimedia project accompanying the new anime adaptation of the Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai series. I put a review up for it. I didn't like this game. That's heartbreaking for me because I got into The Adventure of Dai with the recent anime adaptation. I really liked it. And
I
man,
tell you, man,
this
there's
this
never a good anime game.
this Infinity Strash game. Adam, I
Well,
want to hear from you.
what Chow just said there is actually very apt. For people who are like unfamiliar, it's probably best to think this is not a Dragon Quest game. It's an anime adaptation, and it basically just has like a Dragon Quest skin. You know, design and monsters.
There's a video game adaptation of a new anime adaptation of a manga that came out in like
30 years
1989.
ago.
That was an adaptation of Dragon Quest itself. So it's just like the lineage of this is like, man.
Well, it's best to think of this as an anime RPG rather than a Dragon Quest RPG. It doesn't feel like any other Dragon Quest game. It does feel like a shonen anime game because that's what the anime is. So yeah, I didn't get an early copy, but I bought this and I played it and I beat it in the last couple of days because it's not a very long game. And I agree with you, it's not a good game. And here's why. And I know this isn't new information to you, Josh, because you wrote the review. I guess I should also say that I have not watched the anime, so I'm coming in kind of fresh, just with the very basic understanding.
Like most
of the
people
game.
playing this game, probably.
Now, the main thing about this game is that it is like you said in your review, it is basically a series of battles and quote cutscenes, but about 80% of the cutscenes are basically take the anime and it's just still shots of the anime. Just like take a bunch of still shots and put like an ugly filter over it and play
The black and white one.
No, it's not black and white. It's almost like a camera filter or some
It's like a film grain effect that tries to make it look old timey. Like it's like kind of like a sepia tone.
Now, and you basically 80% of the game's story is basically still shots, like a slideshow from the anime with voices. I assume some of them are just directly taken from the anime, maybe not, but it's just like take the anime version of this story, just kind of chop it all up. And in between, I don't know, these 15-minute long little slideshows,
they're so long. They're crazy long. Oh my god.
So like literally like at the start of the game, you'll watch like a 5-minute slideshow, and you're like, okay, oh no, there's another 5-minute slideshow. Okay, I'll watch that. And oh, here's another 5-minute slideshow. Okay, I guess I'll watch this. And then here's a battle, and a battle takes, I don't know, a minute, 2 minutes, not that long. Some of the later ones are a little longer, but it's like, all right, oh, here's another slideshow. Oh, and here's finally about like 20%, maybe 15% of the game story will have like a scene that's actually like modeled in the game's engine, where you actually have like character models moving and talking like you would expect. But it's not the majority. It's a very thin minority of the game. And that's basically what the game is it's sort of just like take the anime, chop it up, and throw in a battle like here and there. It's like RPG by way of anime arena brawler, sort of.
Yeah.
And
you know what?
My prevailing thought when I was playing this game was really, I should just watch the anime. And I'm normally a person where I prefer the more interactive components of an RPG adaptation versus the more passive of just watching an anime. But in this case, the actual gameplay components of Dragon Quest Dai, they're just not good. It is extremely simple. It's basically these mini arena fighter battles with a very simple action RPG combat system and progression. It's just so thin. And the good thing I will say about this game is that I feel like even through the slideshows and the kind of the poor presentation, I can feel like there's some heart to the actual story that it's adapting. It's very shonen. It's very prototypical shonen. So if that's not your thing, then this won't be your thing. But it's, I can see sort of some of the heart in the anime, but it's making me just want to watch it versus just play the game. So that's like the best thing I can say about this game is it made me more interested in watching the anime because I feel like that's probably a better way to approach this.
What was your question, Chow?
My question is it all slideshow? Do they not have like actual like anime clips from the anime
No,
itself?
there's no actual animation from the
Yeah,
anime.
for like the anime part, there's no video clips of the anime itself. The only cutscenes that are in motion is the ones using the in-game graphical engine, which is actually really good because like the actual graphical fidelity of itself is like a really nice cel-shaded approach to it. It's very expressive, very vibrant, very reminiscent of like the show itself.
Sounds
But
like a
that's
huge missed opportunity.
It's just
Yeah.
there's not very many of those scenes.
It
Ones
also
that are-
it also has like a weird identity crisis because it almost feels like the main story mode is like the secondary mode to like this Temple of Recollection roguelike mode that's in it. And like it's kind of a weird thing because in this game, like the character progression is very thin. Like there's no equipment system, there's no armor system, there's no like you get new weapons, you get new armor, you get new costumes throughout the story, but they're all just appearance only. And the only quote unquote equipment you have are these cards called bond memories, and these give you like stats, and you can level them up. And some of them have like special effects, like the higher rarity bond memories that you have that give some special properties here and there. But enhancing them is locked away in this roguelike mode called the
it's
Temple of
independent from
Recollection.
the story.
Yes.
So basically, and again, you said this in your review, you do story battles or cutscenes, like we said, and by cutscenes I mean slideshows, and then like kind of just like literally on the map, separated away from everything else, is like here's the Temple of Recollection roguelike mode. You kind of like you remove yourself from the story. You do these roguelike. In the roguelike mode, what it is literally just a series of battles. It's just battle after battle after battle.
Yeah, I just love receiver battles,
and then
like
that
sometimes
allows you to power up those cards that you mentioned, the bond memories, and then you can bring that back into the story mode. And
but not your progression. Your progression in there, you always start the Temple of Recollection run at level 1.
Yeah, but the cards that you power up are kept. But so what that effectively means is you play the story, and it's like, oh, if you want to power up, go jump into the temple and do a couple of roguelike runs, then jump back into the story. It's just very awkward.
Yeah, like the I don't know how long it took you, but for me, like the main story took like 13 hours. It took me 13 hours to reach
12
credits.
hours.
Yeah. And then you can after you beat the game, there's like this challenge mode that unlocks that like it has rematches with bosses that have new attack patterns and are generally tougher. And then there's like new layers to this roguelike mode, and then that's to just power up for these challenge boss mode battles post game. But it's like it's just very, very simple and like not really that interesting.
It's
like
sort of, this game doesn't feel like it took 4 years to develop or whatever it was.
Oh.
When was it announced? Like 2020? It's like
it's something
like this
like
game
that.
hasn't been in development this long. It feels cheap. And
Like it's even more simple than like your typical like what Chow would say Muso, right? It's not even like a separate light and heavy attacks. It's like one very simple light attack string, and then you can delay like the third hit to get a different finisher on that same attack string. Then you have like 3 abilities that you can use that are on a cooldown, and each of these cooldowns like take like a fucking mini eternity outside of like Pop and like Martial Artist Mom to like recharge.
This sounds like a low budget PS2 action game. The way you're describing this.
So it's just it's just deeply like not satisfying to play at all because like for like the bosses like you memorize the boss attack patterns, you dodge appropriately, you press your basically your abilities, then you kind of either perfect guard or dodge attack patterns till you can like pretty much like reliably hit them again. Because like you can get interrupted out of your basic attack string and hits hurt and you have limited healing items. So it's just a little bit of like hit and run, and then once you finally stagger them, that's when you can actually get like reliable attack strings in, and then rinse and repeat. And that's kind of the same thing you do for every boss in this game. So it's just
one other thing I will say. This is like the most backhanded compliment I could possibly give this game. Is that I kind of like the music.
Oh yeah,
but the music is just. I assume that's just from the anime production,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
It's like that really didn't have anything to do with the game. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's just I don't know what else to say about it. That's like pretty much the game in a nutshell. It's just not great.
It's a very simple game, and like I said, I feel like I don't want to just say this is calling a game cheap. Kind of feels like a lazy argument, but it's like this game just feels so thin.
You have 4 party members, and they all play different, have different abilities, and like 2 of them have like job changes because of the plot, and and generally it's like they're all functional. I enjoy the most the mage because he can accelerate his cooldowns and spells and does a lot of damage. So I guess I had fun with the gameplay in the sense that like it mitigated most of like the worst aspects of combat the most. That's why I like the character,
So when the
Um,
when the credits popped up, like the end credits, I actually laughed because they're so
Me
sudden.
too. Me too. I was like, oh, that's where it
figured that
ends.
was probably I sort of figured that was probably the final boss, because like, okay, this is final boss ish. But then it still kind of caught me off guard. It's literally like you fight the final boss, and there's like a 10-second scene where it's like, you did it, yay, credits.
And to be clear, this covers up to episode 41 out of 100 of the anime adaptation. So
Yeah,
this only
there's
goes
Oh,
into
we didn't
clearly
even
like
get the whole story.
stuff that's not finished, like
Yeah,
in this
and like,
adaptation.
and like I'm pretty understanding because our production timeline of this game has to coincide the anime production. So obviously, when this game finally finished development on what content it would have, it had to pretty much align on like, okay, what was already shown in the anime at the time. It couldn't be developed as the anime was airing. Like in a sense, like it couldn't, because the anime barely got done airing like fall of 2022. And there's no way it's like, oh yeah, time to just add the content that was barely revealed in the anime back into it, because that would lengthen the development time of this game even more. So like, it just like, I understand from that sense, like, hey, you have to like basically have a content cutoff for this game to at least still be relevant when the anime is still somewhat fresh off the heels of it being done. So in that sense, I understand why it ended there, but it's just so weirdly abrupt still. That, like, even knowing the story, it's like, oh wow, it's just a hard cut right there. It's like, no, I did it. Okay, credits.
Yep.
It's like, all right, great.
Man, this sounds terrible, man.
It is
Oh
pretty
no,
bad.
man. Like, isn't this based on a manga? Like, isn't Dai based on a manga before?
It's based on a 1989 manga. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like, it's like technically, couldn't they already have stories?
I mean, but that's the thing. This anime, I mean, this is based on the new anime adaptation. It is solely reliant on that new anime adaptation to like promote it, pretty much, right? That's why you have still. That's why so much of the cutscenes in it are vignettes of still screenshots of the anime, because that was the whole. Because when the new anime adaptation of Dai was announced, it had three multimedia projects. It was this console game project. It was a now end of service mobile game that saw EOS like earlier this year, and like an arcade game, and those are the three multimedia projects. So they were all driven to promote like the new anime adaptation. So it's like I said earlier, like this kind of like the curse of this game. It's like because it's so reliant on that anime adaptation production line. It kind of skewers what could have been a stronger game.
I
Pretty
feel
much.
like this is honestly one of Square Enix's worst games in recent memory. Like I
Mhm.
They
haven't
make a
played
lot
all
of
of
bad
them.
games.
Like I haven't played all of them, but when I'm thinking of some of Square Enix's maybe lower reviewed, worse reception games, like all right, I like Diofield for what it is. It's not a fantastic game, but I feel like it's got some refreshing elements. I think even Forspoken, which I reviewed and gave a 6, there's like I kind of like some of the combat things. There's a few bright spots. Um,
Okay.
I like some of the Voice of
Is
Cards
this
games. Harvestella I haven't played, but a lot of people like that. And
Valkyrie Elysium even like
Valkyrie
it's like all
Elysium had
right.
some cool combat, even though I feel like the story premise was very poor.
Mhm.
And it's just this game is like, like I said, some of the positives I can talk to of this game really had nothing to do with the actual game production. Like the music or the
Yeah,
story.
right.
I feel like I can feel some of the heart there, but that was written a long time ago. So yeah, I feel like this is quite literally, in terms of quality, one of the worst products Square Enix has put out in recent memories.
well, they put out a lot of bad products. I'm thinking like Ballad in Wonderland,
Oh,
or
I
the
guess
one with
yeah.
that
Balan.
front.
We're like in the Balan Wonderworld, Babylon's Fall tier. So not great company.
So yeah, I mean there's nothing more to say about Infinity Strash really. I mean it is what it is.
I'm actually sort of surprised. I kind of expected Infinity Strash to be like an ability or like his ultimate attack. I'm like, nope, I don't know. That's not a thing, I guess. Or not
It's not.
yet.
Yeah, it's not like I mean, like he Dai and like Die has like the ability to do the Von Strash,
Yeah.
and then
But
that's
I
like
was
an
expecting it to
ability.
be like upgraded to the Infinity Strash
Yeah,
because that's the title. Like,
no,
no, it's not.
no,
It's just the title.
it's just yeah.
What does the Infinity refer to? I don't know.
So even like I feel like this like from the get go, even like when you talk about this game, like I feel like even from the start of like naming this title is like already bad because the first thing people are like, what the fuck is a Strash? People hear
Well,
it.
strike and a
Strash is apparently
slash.
something that's been in the manga, for 30
Yeah,
years.
yeah, I
It's
know.
strike plus slash, I think.
But I mean,
Yeah,
but for many people, people are gonna be like, what the fuck is that?
And
Because
Yeah, I was just
everyone
guessing.
everyone made the joke that it's Infinity's trash
yeah,
rather than Infinity's
Oh,
trash.
they're not too far off. Okay, well, yeah. So those are the two action RPGs that came out this week.
Sounds like I picked the wrong game to play. Play
I mean,
Fate Samurai Remnant and not this.
somehow, yeah. It's oddly enough, Fate seems to be the winner here over Giant Quest, and like we even talked a little about like Steam numbers on
Yeah.
Fate and Die, and it seems like even compared to like other Square Enix like titles coming to Steam, like this is still for a brand new release that's day and date with the PC release, like with the other platforms.
Yeah,
it's still
going by
pretty
Steam
low.
concurrency, it is like one of the lowest Steam concurrencies for any Square Enix game. It's not great.
And we can't speak to the other how it's performing on consoles. Obviously, it's coming out. It's on PS. Is it on Xbox also? I forgot if it's on Xbox.
I think so.
Yeah, so it's we'll see what they say. I guess whenever they release, if they will comment on this at all at their next report.
I have a feeling they'll just forget about this game as soon as they
they're like,
possibly can.
Yeah, they're just like, how's Infinity Strash? Like, what's that?
I feel bad for like the people who are in marketing or social media positions where they're like, oh boy, this game did not review well, but I have to promote it. I have to do tweets. I have to,
I mean, you have to do what you do. Yeah.
Like,
hey, I will say that the social media thing of them making an image of Die out of dice, that was cool. So,
I think that's
really
the only redeeming features, I guess. But that's
yeah,
not part of the game.
the little marketing material for that. There you go, plus 5 points. So yeah. So some other reviews came out this week. I believe Scott Brewer got his Baten Kaitos 1 and 2 HD remaster review out. Seems to like it,
Yeah, he likes the games for what they are, but he felt like some of the remaster things were very odd. Like for example, there's a turbo mode in battle to speed things up, but it makes it impossible to like actually play the battle system. So if you just do the turbo mode as it is, your characters will just stand still because you're not fast enough to like deal the cards or like put your cards in. He actually made a funny joke, like you're standing still, but you're standing still very fast. But so in order to compensate for this, the game does have like an auto battle that kind of goes alongside the turbo, where your characters will use automatic cards, but apparently they're dumb as a brick. Where I forget some of them. I played both these games, and I forget some of the mechanics, but I know like if you play like a water card and a fire card in the same hand, they just cancel each other out.
Yeah, that's right.
Like the auto battle will just do that, like fire, water. It's like no, stop it. And so like, he was a little bit disappointed in like while these are just extra quality of life things that weren't there originally to begin with anyway. The implementation of those is strange, in terms of how they work, and also he said like things like the auto battle or the turbo mode in battle should just like turbo mode or turbo speed through like the animations and not like your hand, like when you actually like have to input cards, and that would have been nice. Or if you could toggle it off and on in battle, but you can't. So there's just some weird implementation things there. And also, I think he played the Switch version, and I guess the Switch version performance is weirdly poor considering these are GameCube games. So kind of sounds familiar to the Tales of Symphonia port, where it's like I know the Switch isn't a powerhouse, but these are GameCube games. You should be able to play them or run them well, and apparently there's just some struggles there.
One would think.
I will probably play these again if they come to PC.
Absolutely.
Wait, did I say that he played the Switch version? That's the only version.
Yes.
I keep thinking this is Bandai Namco. They release on everything. Well, not in this case. But I'll probably play these if they come to PC. but as it
We're
is,
crossing our fingers when it comes
like,
to PC.
yeah, as it is, it's just like, I've already played them. I'm not really interested in playing them again on Switch. So they're
Yeah.
good games. I especially like Origin. I don't even know what the general consensus is. I personally think Origin.
I think
or-
most people prefer two.
I
Yeah.
think I
think
like
it's
two more
significantly
than one.
better. Yeah.
I think one is kind of like, I think you just care about the twists. You don't really care about like.
One has the twist. It is a very good twist.
But
I
yeah.
won't say more. So,
Yeah, we won't spoil it.
We also got a review up for Disgaea 7, Vows of the Virtueless, and that's from one of our newest contributors, Junior Miyai. I believe they're from Japan, so that's awesome.
He lives in Japan. I think he's from America. He's American.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
But he lives in Japan now and he works there.
Cool. Yeah,
his
then-
review was pretty positive.
Yeah,
he
he's
did not
saying he really liked
play.
it.
He did not play 6, so he can't make the direct comparison. Like, this is definitively better than 6. But it seems like general reception seems to indicate that's the case, where 6 was probably one of the lower reviewing Disgaea games, and including our own review. Paige wasn't too hot on it either. But it seems like, generally speaking, that was some growing pains for Disgaea, and seems like this one is more clearly fixed some of the weird issues that 6 had and has just a little bit more of a focus to it. One thing that Junior kind of liked about Disgaea 7, besides some of the mechanical tweaks and improvements, was that it's sort of set in, like, not Japan, like fake Japan, I think, or like a Disgaea version of Japan. And one of the characters is like a super otaku, and apparently just like totally misunderstands and mispronounces like Japanese things as like kind of like a misinformed otaku. And he thought that was sort of funny, especially coming from his position as like a foreigner working in Japan.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, actually.
So, and it's like she mispronounces words, I guess, like sushi or samurai.
Nice.
Because she thinks she knows a bunch about it, but she doesn't actually. He thought that was kind of amusing. But yeah, he liked it.
It's coming out next
I would
week.
play this game if I was caught up on the Disgaea series, but I am not.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna play some. I do want to, since people it's been getting good word of mouth, even from like the Japanese audience. So it's like Nippon Ichi Software definitely wanted to like make a quick rebound from Disgaea 6.
Yeah,
So like when they announced Disgaea 7, yeah, when they announced Disgaea 7, it's like, oh wow, that's very, very soon. Yeah.
And they also with this, we talked about this before. It also avoided the weird Switch exclusive for 7 months or a year, or however long it was.
Oh no, Disgaea 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also, before we get into news, you've got your like preliminary, like first edition of the RPGs of 2024 up for people to, check out what RPGs are coming out so far that we know of next year, like what's been officially announced and so forth.
Yeah, so this has become a little bit of a yearly, thing that I do, project, I guess. So after Tokyo Game Show, that's when each year, the first quarter of the next year, the following year, in terms of release dates, starts to come into focus in terms of what's coming out in January, February, March timeframe. And so every year I post basically, here's what's coming out, you get your schedule ready. I guess take a step back. This is something I update on almost a daily basis, and I'm not exaggerating. Every time there's a new release date for a new RPG, I update our release list for RPGs, and I post them out onto our Twitter and Facebook pages once a month, basically saying here's what the current schedule looks like. And I find it useful just to kind of keep track of our review assignments and everything else that we're doing here. Obviously it's related. It's only RPGs for us. That's kind of our focus, but now that quarter 1 2024 is coming into focus, like, all right, here's what you can look forward to. So we have the very first RPG that we know of coming out next year is Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. That's at the end of January. There's a couple of other games coming out in January, like the Ace Attorney collection, Apollo Justice version. There's Tekken. There might be a few other things I'm not remembering. But in terms of RPGs, you got Like a Dragon. And then February is a big month. You have Persona 3 Reload. You have Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. At the end of the month, you have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And, of course, you have the heavy hitter that everyone's looking forward to, Banishers Ghosts of New Eden, moving to February, because apparently that's a less crowded month. I'm joking.
Yeah, I mean, we can do. Yeah, we can go jump to that. But that was like one of the new things this week.
We'll
Week
get
that
we'll get to that later.
yeah.
But
Okay, all right. Well,
and
we'll get
then
to that
I'm
later.
trying to think. Let me pull up. I'm trying to think. March we have Unicorn Overlord. I don't remember. Is there anything else we know of in March yet? I don't think
No,
so.
just Unicorn. Yeah.
And then April
Just-
we have Eiyuden Chronicles. So yeah, that's
Yep.
so basically starting to come into form. Obviously, there's plenty of other RPGs that are slated for next year that we don't really have dates for yet.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't think it's technically slated for next year, but Dragon's Dogma feels close. But I don't know for sure if that's coming out next year. It seems like
we have ones that like a list that's undated 2024 that did like when they revealed it's like it's coming 2024. So anything that doesn't have a strict release date in 2024, but they announced that that's its own separate list from RPGs that might release in 2024, but they haven't officially put a date on them yet.
Oh yeah, obviously there's the Saga game. There's Trails Through Daybreak, formerly known as Kuro no Kaseki.
Hades 2.
Yeah, Hades 2, which is, you could argue, not really an RPG, sort of an RPG, has builds. Metaphor, Refantasio. Kind of interesting that we didn't get any sort of update on that at all at Tokyo Game Show.
I think they want to get on the other side of Persona 3 Reloaded before we get more on that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be a shit ton of RPGs next year to look forward to. I mean, it seems like people already feel overwhelmed when you tweeted it out on social media. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we all survive on the other side of that. So yeah, so we talked about the games we've been playing with a cameo appearance from James. Talked about the features that went up on the site, and now to go through so the news bits that came out this week. Once again, fairly light compared to
really quick.
Yeah.
Paige put a review up for Everhood Eternity Edition.
Right.
So Everhood, as I understand it, and how it appears and how it's been described to me, it's like Undertale with a music slant. Now, apparently, that might be kind of a shallow comparison. There's a little bit more nuance to it than that, but that's how it sort of appears. But I guess you play these battles. It's almost like a Guitar Hero. It almost looks like the Guitar Hero, like the neck of the guitar, kind of jumping along the lanes, if you will. And so it kind of has that sort of battle system. And it seems interesting, and each battle is like a musical track. And it seems like it has a really good premise, but Paige kind of felt it got old, didn't really come together quite right. She still enjoyed it, but kind of a little bit more mixed than she was anticipating, and she kind of felt like the premise didn't really land. But this is basically this new release is kind of a console release for PlayStation and Xbox, when the game previously, like 2 years ago, released on Switch and PC. But it seems like it's otherwise, a pretty fairly well-regarded indie RPG in that space. So she wanted to give it a chance. Didn't like it as much as she wanted to, but still found some bright spots in it.
All right. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Yes, Everhood Eternity Edition, a review for that from Paige. All right. First news topic this week. Sony has come out and finally announced that Horizon Forbidden West is getting a complete edition that's launching for the PlayStation 5 on October 6th, and also announced that it'll be coming to PC early next year. So there's nothing really surprising about this. As you know, with the complete edition with the Horizon game, they'll be bundling in the Burning Shores DLC and some other bonuses for this new release for Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah, so I played Horizon Forbidden West on PS5, and I played the DLC. I think this is pretty well accepted. I think it's a pretty iterative sequel. It does improve on a lot of the more obvious shortcomings of the original game, but it's otherwise more of the same. So, if you liked Horizon, the first one, if you played it on PC and you liked it, this one is basically an iterative improvement on it. But otherwise, if that's just not your style of game, or if you maybe weren't a huge fan of the original, this one is not going to change your mind. But I think it's nice to see these these Sony games come to PC relatively quickly. I guess this will be about 2 years.
Yeah, it's just to see what the system requirements for this will be on PC. I don't think they've posted that up yet.
No.
So, very pretty game. I imagine, gonna imagine like the PC version of this will be insane. This is coming to both Steam and Epic Game Store. Those storefronts. So yeah, next we have Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, mobile game that you just barely came out in early September. That is coming to Steam. That they didn't put any data on that. It was like at some Ever Crisis like live stream event information, talking about like future content and all that kind of stuff. That released on iOS and Android on September 7th. And yeah, all they said, hey, is like it's coming to Steam at some point. People who are already playing the game on mobile, they can share their data, their progress with the PC release on that. So for people,
I know several people who are interested in this game but didn't want to play it on a phone, so to speak.
Mhm.
So this is obviously the perfect opportunity for them.
Yeah. So if you were interested, and don't want to play it on the phone, you'll have a chance to. I'm interested to see if this will run on Steam Deck, if it'll support Steam Deck. So if you wanted a bigger phone experience, a bigger portable experience, I guess. So yeah, but they didn't say much else aside from that.
Nope, it was pretty much just said in a I think just a kind of a random live stream and then a tweet like it's coming to Steam. Okay.
What?
And
Okay.
that'll have cross progression.
Um, what's
I
up,
have
Chow?
I have a strange question.
Uh-huh.
Was it yesterday they have Forspoken? I think they got the FSR free patch thrown
Oh,
into the game. I was wondering if anyone got the chance to test the game
I
and
didn't
see
even know
if that
Forspoken
would
got a
try.
patch.
Me neither. I haven't followed.
Well, it's for FSR free. It's for those people that don't have a NVIDIA brand graphics card. They could play with all this cool stuff, which is like their equivalent of DLSS. So.
No, I have no idea. They actually have a Steam Next Fest trailer for Astra Knights of Veda. That a public demo for that will be coming to the Steam page from October 9th to October 16th as part of the Steam Next Fest. This was the game that was announced recently for PC and mobile that sort of looked like a Vanillaware game. That it's a side scroller action RPG.
It looks like Dragon's Crown in a way, but I don't
Well, I
the whole
think
thing.
this is actually a sequel to a Korean mobile game called Dragon's Blaze, I want to say. And in fact, I think its Korean title is still Dragon's Blaze, but the English title they changed it up entirely.
I think the reason why they had to change it up because there's a shoot 'em up game called Dragon's Blaze by was it the Psycho? I forgot how to say their name.
In either case, Dragon's Blaze is not an incredibly unique name, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, so for people who want to try it out, they'll be able to fairly soon on that Steam Next Fest.
I'm quite curious. I'm interested to try it. I'm just worried more about the monetization. That's about it.
They're saying that you can be it supports the gamepad and keyboard and mouse, and that the game can be played on Android devices with crossplay features during Steam Next Fest. So trying to make the experience integrated no matter what device you're playing it on there. So I want to check it out too, see how the game feels and how it plays and all that sort of stuff. So I'll look out for it.
I forgot to ask, did you get to try out the Atelier mobile game?
No,
just came out recently?
I'm not really interested in it. There were some interesting things that I learned about it that I didn't really want to, but like,
they were charging 6,000 yens for a 10-pull.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I heard something about that too. I heard the last thing I heard about that game was like yesterday. There's a in the options menu of the game. There's a shaking setting, and then as you might have guessed from a shaking setting, it basically affects like the boob jiggle physics in that game for the characters. So
they say it's not made for the fan service.
there you go. So yeah. Once again, this feels like the 100th trailer for this game. Hexworks has shared an 8-minute overview trailer for Lords of the Fallen, which is coming out October 13th. Yeah, October 13th. But they have been cranking out. Hey, that no one can fault them for under promoting this game. They have put out a lot of.
If this game if this game isn't a sales success, you can't blame marketing because they've
Yeah,
done a
it's,
ton. And
they have
it showed up at like every stage event possible.
yeah, on top of like other preview events like outside of like just like
Yeah, even
public
James
events.
played it. So
Yeah,
now this game
so
actually looks like visually it looks pretty solid. It's an Unreal Engine 5 game. It looks like it could be good. Now it's really hard to get a feel on like the overall structure and progression and whatnot. But I've said before, this game is interesting because it is from like a brand new studio, and this is their first game on an Unreal Engine 5, and so it's
and
interesting.
yeah, it seems like even for people who played it, they're like, yeah, it's pretty solid. So like even like the pre-release like reception to it for people who got hands on are like, yeah, there's something to this. Like it'll be really impressive if they can pull it off, like and have this be their first debut project. Like that'd be on top of like kind of like using the name of like a game that came out in 2014, except it's like not really related to that game at all.
Yeah,
It's just you know, you know.
we'll see.
So yeah, we'll see. How many more trailers do you think they're gonna show before
Two
the release
more
date?
trailers.
Two more trailers.
They'll
Okay.
have like they'll have a launch day trailer,
Oh yeah, for
and they'll
sure.
probably have
Launch
just one
trailer.
more somehow.
An Accolades trailer.
Well, they'll have that too. There'll be three more.
They need to do that. That's after the release, I assume. Imagine that just like a week before. It's like here are the accolades. Here's how much.
No,
Here's
no, no.
the time.
What they do is that they have an embargo that's about before the game's release, and then they use all like the quotes from the accolades.
Oh
make a
yeah.
trailer
that
for
is
the
actually
game
something that happens not frequently, but whenever it does happen, it kind of feels a bit scummy. So like oftentimes games, this is a bit of an aside, will have like a preview embargo where all these outlets will basically have like a very limited, here's my first impressions or like on the first hour, first chapter or whatever of the game. And just by nature, previews are usually a bit more positive because, it's like, well, I haven't seen the whole thing. I'm kind of giving it good faith or
It
whatnot.
highlights the best parts of the game.
Yeah, and then but then you sometimes get these publishers or PR. They're like, "Hey, let's do an Accolade trailer based on all the preview impression," and it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't feel right.
It's also there's also like a weird like kind of like other side to it too. The like I won't say which game this happened to recently, but like and when you're going through a game, sometimes PR will reach out to it's like, what do you think of the game so far? What's like
Oh,
what
yeah.
like they want like your preliminary
Yeah,
feedback
please
for the
share
release
with us
publisher.
your review ahead of time, and it's like,
It's like
maybe not.
yeah, so it's sometimes it get pretty weird. Next, thank you, Chow, for being here because Honkai Star Rail version 1.4 adds old weapons, testing ground, pillars of creation, recruitable Seele, Jingliu. Oh god, how do you pronounce his name? Guinaifen
I don't know.
That's
and
Guinaifen.
and
I think her real name
Topaz
is
and
supposed to be
Numby.
Grenrear, and that's her fake alias name.
So all this coming on October 11th. Does this make any sense to you, Chow?
It does. I actually
Okay.
watched both live streams. I
Oh,
actually watched the
shit.
Japanese live stream and I watched the English live stream.
Okay, give us the shorthand
What is
version for normal
Topaz and
people.
Numby?
Okay, Topaz is a IRS agent, basically. She's here to collect debts from planets that owe a lot of money to the IPC.
But so the way I gathered it is Topaz and Numby are a pair.
Yes, she basically has this pig, which is this warp traveler, that can track down money and hunt you down.
Oh, okay.
And so she is like the
rather than a
ultimate
pig,
debt collector.
rather than it's kind of a folklore thing that pigs can like track you down to truffles, like rare mushrooms. But I guess this one finds debt. Okay, that's kind of
Yes.
silly.
That's
Yeah.
kind of like her whole thing. And the other one is Jingliu's been promoted before. She's what is it? Jing Yuan's master. You see like a short anime trailer where she used to train him, and it ends with him like landing this killing blow that looks like it killed her. But as the story plays along, she was never dead. I think they just captured her because she went insane.
Yeah, the only thing I know from this is like they're doing. I guess they're doing a Seele rerun because that was like the first banner in the game, and I was like playing it for a little bit. Is this new update like an event or a new like story chapter?
I think it's just a filler arc, but they added a
Okay.
lot of new content. Like the last patch that just came out, or the current patch that just came out, I actually love this patch. I think I spent like 50 hours playing that patch because they added this mode called the Swarm Disaster, which is kind of like the simulated universe on steroids. you can do like millions of damage of all like the custom like things you could do with it, right?
Okay.
Because it's just like it's very fun. It's like you had to think outside the box because even whales have trouble beating it, right? Because when whales were playing it, they were like, "Oh, I can't fucking beat this. This mode is trash." But it's more like you had to learn
Oh,
how to
you
like.
got to learn how to play the game. That's crazy.
Yes,
Wow.
you're forced to learn how to exploit these abilities, these paths, so that your characters could do like millions of damage. Because
It's not a mode you can pay your money.
yeah,
Pay your
because
way
no matter how
through.
much you wail, your characters can't do a million damage under normal circumstances, right? So you have to like think outside of the box, right?
Mhm.
And that's what I like about this mode. It makes like this one girl, was it King Chu or QQ? I think that's what people like to call her for short. She's like the gambling girl, right? She used mahjong things,
Okay.
right? And she actually is like super broken in one of the paths you could take in this mode because she can like every time she rolls, her mahjong tiles, she gets a buff, and you keep rolling, rolling. If you keep getting bad luck and keep rolling, you get like this, I don't know, like 1,000% up damage buff. So she'd be like throwing the next hit would do like millions of damage. So it's like a lot of customizabilities you could do with it. It's just crazy on
Okay.
how you could play that mode. And I want to say in this live stream patch, what makes it really different is like a lot of the live streams in the English side of things, it's just the voice actors just kind of like commentating or clowning on the game sometimes. Well, not clowning, but like poking fun of certain things, joking around. What they did with this live stream is different. Is that they kind of followed the Japanese live stream in a way where they're pretending to be the character that they're in. If you get what I'm saying.
Okay. They're role playing.
They're role playing the actual characters.
Hmm.
And so now they have the exact script both in English and in Japanese. So this version of the live stream, we have March 7 being a VTuber for a bit to promote certain parts of it, and then they have like the other characters come in and they start promoting like the new events. So this is very different, and a lot of people actually prefer this more than the voice actors doing commentating. They prefer the role playing as the characters commentating what's happening there.
Okay. All right.
So
Changing it up and seeing how it goes. I respect that.
But yeah, I
Okay.
think it was a very good live stream, and then they had the new mode, which is Apharium Wars, which is like this. They call it like the Pokemon collect characters and use it to battle other teams with it, like a rock paper scissors thing. And then the other thing is this other Infinity Planar Fisher or something. It's like a simulated universe with some hacks on, so it's like it's meant to be broken or something.
Hmm.
So. I don't know. I'm interested. It sounds like a really big patch, but this patch is it's like short. I think it's like instead of like like most patches is like a month and a half. This patch only lasts for like a lot shorter
Yeah,
because
I
of
saw. This to me it feels like a biggest nothing burger whatsoever. But I saw a lot of like hubbub about most patches last for 6 weeks, but this one only lasts for 5, and people are making like a big deal out of that. It's like okay,
you got less days to save for gems, and the reason why I think the reason why it's cut short is because there's a Chinese holiday around that time, so it's cut short for that reason.
Hmm.
okay.
Okay.
But yeah,
Uh,
that's, that's
yeah.
it in a nutshell.
Oh, also it's coming to PlayStation 5 the same day. So
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's why the Seele has to come back, so people have banners for all the characters they missed out on. But they had to wail for all those gems if they want to be on par with PC players.
Achilles Legends Untold comes out on November 2nd for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC.
Would they have the thing in Greek mythology where they beat up Priam with a dead corpse of a baby?
This looks like a the isometric action RPG.
it's
Is
like
it?
isometric roguelike
Yeah.
Souls-like RPG, and that's their own wording of it. So
Okay.
and it's got procedurally generated dungeons and some sort of AI system that they promote a lot about how the enemies respond to you.
Innovative GAIA system.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this game other than
Uh,
I read
we got an
Achilles. I was
amusing
thinking about the
response on
Iliad.
Twitter about like someone who's very familiar with Greek mythology. Like this game makes no sense. Like okay,
I'm pretty familiar. I'm familiar with the Iliad and whatever happens after that.
all
There's some
right.
really
So
fucked up shit in there.
So what did if you know Adam, what did that person point out anything like why this game is driving them insane?
Oh, let me give me a second here.
Okay.
So I know very briefly, very vaguely, like the story
I
of
rode a Trojan
Achilles.
horse,
Yeah.
you know. I'm
So one
trying to think
person's
what else.
like, uh, my first impression, without any knowledge of the game, if this is based on Achilles, so you'll spend 90% of the game in a tent. After the war in Troy, doesn't Achilles die outside the wall of Troy's arrow to the heel? Like, okay, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what spending 90% of the game in a tent means, but I guess.
Well, that's what he did in the actual mythology. He was just having a temper tantrum with his
Oh, I guess
with
this
his
sounds
leader.
familiar from like high school. I don't know.
Well, look in the press release it says become Achilles, the greatest warrior the ancient world has ever seen. So I don't know. It's Chow and this person's word against the press release to promote this game. So I don't know who to believe. But that's Achilles Legends Untold. See, it says it in the Legends Untold. You don't even know it yet. So
Okay.
this might actually be the real deal, the real story.
Achilles, the real story.
Yes.
Arrow to the heel.
Free to play side scroller action RPG Phantom Blade Executioners launches on November 2nd for PS5, PS4 mobile, and PC. I briefly played like a test of this game on mobile. It's like a side scroller action RPG with kind of like a ink painting sort of like art style. It seems pretty nice, but I didn't like the gacha system in it because you kind of gacha like these like spirit powers or whatever, and it seemed
Yeah,
kind of stingy.
yeah, it's a
With
free to play game. Back at the most recent, or maybe it was two PlayStation State of Plays ago, they announced an action RPG called Phantom Blade Zero from a Chinese studio called S Game, and I guess
yeah,
this is the same studio. And this game is called Phantom Blade Executioners, obviously. So it's connected somehow to that. That Phantom Blade Zero that was shown off was a more traditional 3D action RPG Souls-ish, where this is obviously side scroller, more artsy. But I guess they're related somehow
yeah, it's
from
kind
the
of
same
weird. Like,
studio.
yeah, the Phantom Blade Zero, and that's like really threw me off guard because like I don't know much about the studio, but like it's like man, they have these. They're kind of working on these projects side by side, or they have different teams because they're a big enough team to like accommodate it. Because Phantom Blade Zero looks like it looks crazy cool, but like also like it seems like pretty high budget
Yeah,
from what they showed.
It
So
looks so cool, but the thing is, I don't know how it would play. Like the way that the blades, like when they cross against other people's blades, it looks like real
yeah,
fighting. But how would that
yeah,
work in a video game? I'm
yeah.
very curious, right?
I don't know. So and I don't think they didn't announce a release date or anything for that game. So who knows? Zero is going to come out. Obviously, Executioners is going to come out first. Hopefully, hopefully the developers ironed out the things they didn't like about it. But we'll see. We'll see, I guess. So yeah, that is Phantom Blade Executioners. Next we have the Fulfilling Promises. We have Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous DLC number 5. Lord of Nothing that is coming out on November 21st, and this is I believe this is the fulfilling a promise because like they were Alcat was saying they're gonna have the final Pathfinder DLC out before the end of the year,
well,
right?
this isn't the final one. There's one
Oh,
more.
okay.
So
Oh,
we need Brian here. The 1 week he's
uh,
gone. So Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous had a season pass, and it had 3 DLCs. I believe like one of them was like a side story, and one of them was like a roguelike mode, and one of them was an actual continuation of the story. And then they kind of surprisingly, at the very start of this year, announced they're actually getting like a second season pass with DLCs 4, 5, and 6. So this is
oh,
DLC 5. So there's still one more, and I guess specifically this DLC, DLC 5, Lord of Nothing, is actually a follow up to DLC 2. The title I forget. And
so
so
you need to understand this. You need to have already have the previous season pass with DLC 2 in it.
yes, and I'm not the right person to talk about like
Yeah, yeah.
which DLCs are like standalone, which ones are continuation. But this one is a follow up to an earlier DLC, and it's kind of funny. It's not a follow up to DLC 4 or 3. It's a follow up to 2. It gets a little silly. I mean, I'm sure Pathfinder fans are all very familiar with what's what, but I honestly don't know what the reception of these DLCs are, but it's kind of interesting that they're still supporting this game and it's getting this DLC, and they have Rogue Trader coming out in a couple of months. So
Yes.
The only thing I know about Pathfinder is they're the most popular guides of all time.
Are they?
Yeah, they are. Like
Wow.
even if I hit like several million views for Cold Steel guides, I still get beaten by Pathfinder. So
Wow.
I know these games
Dang.
do crazy good on Steam. Like, it has a huge audience. In fact, 2 years ago, when we did our Game of the Year deliberation, um, Brian was the only one who had played Pathfinder. I've always been interested. I just haven't had time. And he actually wasn't a huge fan of Wrath of the Righteous. He was like, I kind of like Kingmaker more in some respects, which was the previous game. So it didn't make our top 10 that year in 2021. And we got a lot of people mad at us because we didn't put it in our top 10. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's just how it goes sometimes, man. Like sometimes you only have one person plays a game, and they kind of ride or die with what they say. Let's see what else we have. Vampire the Masquerade Swansong, that's coming out for the Switch, and this is a weird one. So it came out in Europe on September 29, and it's coming to North America on December 5th.
Yeah.
Huh.
Now, the publisher is Nacon, who's French.
hmm
But I guess for some reason, this publishing is like there's a 3-month delay for the US
Wow.
version, which is, you don't really see that very often these days. But
Yeah, this is already out on like a lot of other platforms, like
yeah.
pretty much everything else. So
So this is not Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. This is
no.
Swansong. Vampire the Masquerade is kind of a weird IP because I forget who controls the IP, but they've kind of given that license to a lot of different people to do whatever they want with it. And so there's been a handful of different games. In fact, I saw there was actually a recently announced bundle for Vampire the Masquerade Shadows of New York and Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York, which are both like visual novels of a Western visual novel basically, or adventure game. But anyways, this is like a narrative RPG that came out 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, for almost every platform and PC. Epic Game Store. Then it got a Steam release, and they were planning a Switch release the whole time, but I actually didn't realize that it never released until now. Like, oh, it's finally out on Switch. I hear it's actually an okay game. Just didn't seem to really have a whole lot of traction. If you like those sort of narrative games, it's from the developer Big Bad Wolf, who made like these sort of episodic games like The Council, which I
Oh
heard
yeah.
sort of good things about. So yeah, it seems like if this is your sort of up your alley, narrative focused dialogue RPG, worth checking out. Now available on Switch
In Europe.
in Europe. Sorry, Americans.
Yeah, this is I was like, didn't they already answer? I was like, oh no, there was a delay on the embargo on it. The Legend of Legacy HD Remastered was announced for PS5, PS4, Switch, and PC, and that is coming early next year. And this is the game by Catacomb 3, the one before Alliance Alive.
in my personal opinion, I see no reason to get this game when there's Alliance Alive. That's kind of like my take of it, because
Yeah,
this game, it feels like there's no storyline.
There is no story.
It's just a saga game.
It
Basically,
even has like less story than a saga game. It is
Yeah.
like even saga games have more character and story than this one does. So I played the 3DS version. I reviewed it like 8 years ago or whenever that was. And it's like the saga systems, so it actually has like saga, DNA behind it, and obviously is inspired by it. And I feel like mechanically it's a solid game. I feel like it gets a little bit repetitive because it gears itself towards like similar strategies too often, but um I kind of just feel like there is no story. There are no the character building. It is extremely thin. It is totally a mechanics focused game. So if you play RPGs for story, do not pick this up. If you liked Alliance Alive because you like the characters, do not pick this up. If you do like the saga mechanics and exploration and combat and progression, might be worth checking out. I still feel like those were good but not great.
Yeah, it's like there's a weird situation because Alliance Live got the HD remaster before this, and this is
Yes.
kind of like this was like
Predecessor.
this was the predecessor to that, so it's a stepping stone into what would later be refined in the Alliance Alive.
Yeah.
And I remember this coming out as having mixed reception as well, and people are very split on it.
There are some redeeming qualities. It has a soundtrack from was it Masashi Hamasu,
Yeah,
which is the Final Fantasy 13 composer, which is very good.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's an interesting game, but once again, I feel like it comes together better in the Alliance
and
Alive.
depending on when it releases, it's like I don't know if this will be worth it compared to whatever else is releasing in early 2024 around it.
Yeah.
So
I don't. Like,
I might check it out.
Where's my Stella Glow PC version? Modern release.
Image is dead.
Yeah. So
got to beg Sega somehow.
Well, I don't know. Mission a shooting star, I guess. Okay. As we were talking a little bit about it, I kind of teased it
A while ago.
Banishers: A Ghosts of New Eden, the new action RPG coming from Dogma and Focus Entertainment. It was originally coming out on November 7th, but that got pushed back to February 13, 2024, which is, not, as we already discussed earlier, kind of a crowded period. But according to the CEO of Dontnod, Oscar Gilbert, and the managing director of Focus Entertainment, John Burt, they provided a joint statement on why they delayed it to February 13th. And then, in their own words, they said that, because since the market is experiencing an intense release cycle of AAA titles on PC and consoles at the end of the year, they're convinced that a commercial release for Banishers Ghosts of New Eden will be during a less saturated period, will give it the attention it deserves. So, that's what they believe. They believe that February 2024 for RPGs is a less saturated period. Now, to their credit, yes, in the Western sense, that there's not a lot of Western RPGs coming out around that time frame. But RPGs in general, I don't know. That's square in between.
It's sort of amusing coming literally a week or within a week after I talked about playing Vampire, so I could play this and check it out.
You laughed at the delay when you saw the delay.
But and so yeah, it's just they say they're delaying it from November to February because they think it's a more marketable time slot or release window. Now, yeah, I guess maybe on the Western sensors, maybe not a whole lot releasing early next year, but I still feel like you have to be cognizant that Persona, Final Fantasy, and even Like a Dragon are all pretty popular worldwide now. They're selling, and those are all AAA games. Well, Persona, you could maybe argue, I guess. Well, actually, that's actually another component here. That's actually kind of interesting. Is they're talking about AAA games, and are they considering Banishers: Ghosts of New Eden as AAA? That's not really what I would.
Yeah.
It's Dontnod, which is a relatively small studio. I'm curious if I can find their studio size real quick. And it's being published by Focus Home Entertainment, which is a pretty big European publisher. But I still wouldn't really consider this AAA. Not really.
Not really. Yeah.
I think when I think AAA, I'm thinking Ubisoft, Activision, Take-Two, those really big companies, or like Square Enix or Capcom or Bandai Namco's biggest titles, not Focus Home Interactive and Dontnod. Anyways, it looks like their studio is about 300 people, which is about what I expected. That's an average, medium, semi-large studio size, but still.
Yeah. So,
I will play this. I will check it out. It might be good. I talked about this last week. It's just that you're kind of sandwiched between Persona, Like a Dragon, Final Fantasy.
It's targeting those people that finish Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Persona 3 Reload, and Grand Blue Link all before February 13th, and they're like, "What am I gonna play till Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth?"
I kind of feel like if they needed to delay this game for polishing or whatever, I would think December or January would have been better options. Mid-January, mid-December, maybe early December.
But I think that's probably they're probably looking at the market there's a reason a lot of people don't release around mid to late December and early January. It's usually the market is pretty barren around that time frame, and I assume that's just like due to market like historical data of like, hey, things don't sell around that time period. And that's also usually the time period that like for some of us like grumble like, oh, there's nothing, no new releases out until end of January. What the fuck am I gonna play until then? You know. Which it does happen pretty consistently, and like we
kind of on this note, and we were talking about the RPG list earlier, and we've talked about this before. I think we put a decent effort into covering Japanese RPGs and Western RPGs relatively evenly. But the thing is just by like sheer count, by volume, there are just significantly more Japanese RPGs than Western RPGs. So it almost feels like we unfairly give it a slant when it's like, no, that's just kind of the reality.
That's just like observable data.
Yeah. So I was actually thinking about, so this year in the West, like in 2023, we saw Baldur's Gate 3, we saw Starfield, we saw like the re-release of Cyberpunk, and then there were some smaller games like Jagged Alliance 3, which we covered, or Miasma Chronicles, which we covered, or some indie stuff like it's either Mage Seeker or Mage Slayer, I forget, which we covered, all Western. And obviously Baldur's Gate, Starfield, and Cyberpunk being huge. But I was thinking, like, what Western RPGs are coming out next year for sure? And there's this one, Banishers, obviously not as big. There is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, which I've kind of soured on, which we've talked about because it's it doesn't have a stellar development history so far. There's a game from the Australian studio behind Ashen called Flintlock, which we've covered. That's coming out next year. Obsidian has Avowed coming out next year, which is set in the Pillars of Eternity universe. And those are the main ones I can think of for RPGs, Western RPGs coming out next year. Because like Dragon Age, we still haven't even really seen it. The newest Dragon Age, which has been in development for feels like forever.
And it feels like every new update we get of it's like, oh, something really bad is happening.
They just cut off. They just laid off a bunch of people from BioWare.
And they also have like this weird like almost not like every half year they kind of like have to like give like the usual like blog post assurance like, yeah, we're still working on Dragon Age, don't worry.
It feels like 4 years in a row we've gotten like concept art. And it's just like there was actually a leak of showing some of the game, like actual game, like, in action, and it sort of looks like, just from a glance, almost like a God of War-ish action game. I mean, that's just what it looks like. Who knows for sure? But they still haven't officially shown anything from that game. I'm actually looking at our list for like what other Western RPGs are coming out next year. Oh, there's Hades. Early access anyways, and again, that you could argue that's not an RPG because it's sort of not. There's not that many. So anyways, I was just sort of thinking like this Western RPG kind of being slotted up against a bunch of Japanese ones.
It's okay, we're still gonna get flack for like, well, I can't believe JRPG site. What the hell?
when you give a good score to American RPGs, they think we're clowns too. So it'll be like Alex giving Phantom Liberty a 10, and you're like, oh,
hey, Phantom Liberty has gotten really good reception.
Yeah, but he was the clown on Alex for giving a good score. Though.
I guess on a little aside, like I started Cyberpunk 2077 for the first time this week, and I've been like, I'm still on the base game content, not a Phantom Liberty yet, but I've been having a lot of fun with like kind of just. I'm glad that I played it now instead of earlier, because
I've been meaning to play it, but there's just so many things. So.
Yeah,
imagine if that was a state of the game that came out during 2021. I think it was.
It'd been great. It would have been fantastic, So I mean, so I'll have more to say once I get to like the DLC content, which is maybe fairly soon, I guess. But yeah, it's been a fun time. So yeah, ending off our news for this episode, we have Goblin Slayer: Another Adventurer Nightmare Feast comes out on February 29, 2024 for Switch and PC. Yeah,
very good release date. Nothing else is coming out.
Very good release date.
Time.
It's releasing a less saturated time period, so to speak. So yeah, and that's going to be a tie-in with the Goblin Slayer IP, the light novel and anime. I think the second anime season of that is like airing fairly soon. And this was an interesting game adaptation because it's a strategy RPG.
Story. And it's also like it's different characters from what I understand.
Right.
I've seen Goblin Slayer, but it's like a different They literally call it another adventure.
Another
It's like
adventure.
different characters. And one thing that's sort of interesting about this is it's from Bushiroad, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
Who they've done a lot of like mobile gacha or like arcade type stuff in the past, but they recently have been like trying to do more like console video games. Like this one, there's another game that's like from the Harvest or from the Rune Factory devs or like his Rune Factory DNA called like Rear Sakai that we've
Right.
talked
Yeah.
about in the
Where's the
past.
Kai?
And
They
there's
also have
another
like
one
one
too. There's another one
like
like what's
for Mushoku Tensei.
yes, that one.
Yeah.
But this one's interesting because this one is coming out in English. Like it's got an English website and everything. There's like no English PR for this, so like we don't have a lot of details on it. And I even put in the news post here that like it's not 100% confident or confirmed that this game is releasing in English on February 20th and 29th. We're sort of making an assumption that like the game supports
Well,
English and the game's coming out on
yeah.
February 29th, but I don't know if that English support is coming at launch or later.
Yeah, it's
But
like a game released on Steam on February 29th, and it says it'll support English and Japanese
Yes.
language options. So
yeah, so we're sort of
would-
assuming that it will, but yeah, it's if I guess this is obviously a very niche property, I think, comparatively to other RPGs. But if you're a huge Goblin Slayer fan, this one is for you.
Yeah. So yeah, other Bushiroad stuff is like they have a Macross game coming January, like Shooting Insight. Then we said a Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation.
And none of those other
And-
games have like English
Yeah.
confirmation. It was just this one for whatever
I
reason.
no, I think the Macross Shooting
Oh, it
Insight
does?
one, yeah, that one has an English release. That one's
Okay.
really weird because of the licensing
Yeah.
agreements. They had to like cut out like a portion of the game content of like there's a certain macro, like the early Macross had to be like cut out for the English release and released as its own separate DLC because of the how the licensing agreement worked in the West. Because Macross has been like just recently, very recently, finally like got out of like whoever did the
Was that the
Robotech.
Harmony Gold thing?
I mean,
Yeah, Harmony Gold, yeah. So yeah. So it's really,
Like,
really weird.
it's hilarious too. When you look at the promotion, they got Lin Minmei in like the Japanese ad in the front, but she's completely like cut out the picture in like the American version. It's like,
Yeah.
oh man.
Like the whole arrangement between that is so stupid and bizarre. But
I
that's
thought it'd be
the whole thing with
settled by
Harmony Gold.
now. I mean, like, I can't hate the original Harmony Gold people for it because they did bring Macross to a larger audience in a way. But
Well,
at the same
did they
time,
or did they do it through their own waves of Robotech? You know,
yeah. but
so it's not really. I won't take Harmony Gold for anything. Fuck them. I hate Harmony Gold so much. Like
I know.
The thing is like Robotech was so long ago. Like people don't even know about this anymore. Like just let it go.
Yeah, these guys feel like they can't make any money without this IP, so they're stuck to it with their stupid old senile ways. Can't win everything.
So yeah, that's I don't know anything about the Mushoku Tensei one if they're
I
gonna
don't think they've
release
really
that
shown
English or not.
anything yet. They just
Yeah.
said
They
they're
showed that
making a
one
game.
trailer with the logo, and they're like, "What is the game?"
They showed one
What?
trailer with the logo, and then there's another trailer like, here are character art that you already know what the characters look like if you're familiar. It's like, oh, okay.
That's a classic. I love when the trailers do that. So yeah, I mean that covers it for news this week and the games we've been playing and article features and all that sort of stuff. I don't know what to expect from next week. I imagine we'll get Brian back, and I guess hopefully by that time I'll also be able to talk Phantom Liberty with him. Are there any new releases this or next week?
I think the biggest releases next week are Silent Hope, which
Okay.
that review embargo lifted. And I've seen some reviews for it. It seems like it's fine. If you that's like the action RPG in the Rune Factory kind of world, and you've talked
Yeah.
about it when you previewed it. But that comes out next week. We have someone reviewing it. They're just not ready yet. Disgaea 7 is next week.
Right.
Oh, I guess Front Mission is at the very end of next week. Front Mission 2 remake for Switch.
Mm.
So
Okay.
that'll be interesting. I want to play these remakes on PC.
The first remake is coming to PC eventually, right? I think they announced it.
It already came out on PC
Oh, right.
like this summer. I just haven't gotten a chance to play it yet. Oh, and there's a Sword Art Online game coming out next week.
There you go. You gonna play it?
Nope.
What? I thought
There's a demo. You can play the demo.
I don't know.
That's it. So yeah, that's next week. Next week we have Silent Hope, Disgaea 7, Front Mission 2, Sword Art Online.
Okay.
I don't think we have anyone reviewing Sword Art Online. Just sorry, Sword Art Online fans. We don't have anyone interested enough in the series to review it.
This
I
is
know
like a
Josh
tradition
did
for
play.
us.
You did
Look,
play.
I have terrible experience
the last
reviewing
one.
games based on
I-
anime.
I played a good chunk of the last one, but I was like,
Hey,
uh,
did you have friends that swear by this?
I had friends that really got into it. Okay, and definitely one of them is going hard on this upcoming one too. God bless his soul. He never even watched or read it at all. He just liked the game, even though he's like, it's kind of bad, but also kind of my shit.
Probably
It's like,
better
all
than
right.
Dragon Quest Die.
You know what?
I mean,
I can confirm that the last.
almost
Yeah.
certainly better than Dragon Quest Die.
Yeah, the SAO game I played last time, the one before the upcoming one, is better than Die. I can give you that. Yes.
Yeah.
But I tell you, man, don't play games based on an anime adaptation or something. It was go bad.
They're not always. I'd have to think about it though, but they're not always. Um. Anyway, you can find us on rpgsite.net. You can find us on Twitter/X/ whatever you want to call it these days at rpgsite. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/rpgsite.net. You can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/rpgsite.net. You can find us on your favorite podcast app, whether that be iTunes or Spotify or whatever. Find us there. Just look up Tetracast. And then you can join our Discord via discord.com/invite/RPG site. It's always active. People are always there, always ready to chat, and it's a busy time for people in games. So you see a lot of people sharing what they're playing there. Until then, that's it for now. We'll have, I assume, the regular crew back next week and see what everyone's going to be up to and see if there's going to be any new surprises in the news out of nowhere next week. Until then, you guys stay safe and have a great one. Peace out.